by the government. So, even when you plan cities, you plan Abuja, you plan Lagos, you create areas for recreation where you can, of course, access such kind of facilities equally for development. So when you wake up in the morning and behind your house, you see a tennis court, growing up. You will be inquisitive. You see people jump there every morning. One day, you as a kid, because you are exposed to seeing that, you will go there, and then of course you will get exposed to participation in that particular sports or sports generally. So it's everybody.
Okay,
it's
so
government.
Just before I go to Prof, yeah, you meet with government, you meet with the ministers, you meet with maybe the permanent secretaries. What do they expect from you as the president of the Tennis Federation?
What they expect, because it is some of these discussions are very difficult to do with them, because you have had several interactions with ministers, with the permanent secretaries, and some of the things are okay. We don't have funds. We are waiting for funds. We don't have money. So we've made budgets, but it's not financially backed or cash backing. It's not there. So you go back. They expect you to go to the field and look for sponsors and run your programs. That is what. But they equally expect you to bring athletes that will win Olympic medals and Grand Slam events. That's what they expect, Okay. But it's not going to happen that way easily until, like I said, we all come together and ensure that every department of every sport is taken care of.
Okay, so Prof, you've heard the president talk about all stakeholders coming together to advance tennis in Nigeria. You yourself are involved in a private initiative. You are an ex-international. You played tennis at a very high level, and now you're thinking of giving back to society. And you are trying to, on your own, muscle some of the former players, to try and do something for tennis in Nigeria. Can you let us know what that is and how much progress you have made?
Let me put clarity in what my president just said regarding building a culture of participation, a culture of involvement, a culture of information sharing to develop tennis and tennis sports development in Nigeria. I've been very fortunate since 2009 to interact with government, the ministers, the DG, some permanent secretary. Just recently, I was very involved in writing the 26 National Sports Industry Policy. So I know the thinking, I know the mentality, and I know the challenges facing sports development in Nigeria, particularly sports. So I'm really excited to hear, from my president that this is what he and his board have been facing for the last 7 years, which of course I know because I've always been involved with my late father in Adejimo, right? And then throughout that period, he may not know a lot of days, but at least he's knowing now, that yes, I have been involved for the last 34 years, and I've accepted my role in being critical in the beginning, but I am not anymore now because, of course, age, and then because of the wisdom, and then because of the education. Now, to come back to what he was referring to about culture, right? Remember, in these industrialized nations, it is the middle class that sustain sports development. So this is very fundamental. In industrial nations, right, America, Australia, Britain, and all of that, right, government, they play a limited role in sports development. It's all in the private sector. right? So if you bring it back to the challenges we're facing right now in Nigeria in terms of the economic challenges and other cultural challenges, you begin to understand, what a lot of these sports presidents, including my president, right, are going through. So I'm very sympathetic to that. Now, coming back to your question of my role in the last 34 years, with that shifted, which is expected, from being critical, to now, being participatory in my stuff. And I'm glad, honestly, I'm glad that I'm able to, be having this conversation to let the president know that, look, he has already told me that last year that, yes, he believes in what I'm doing, he supports the vision, but again, there are contradictions in what a federation does and what private individuals or organizations do. I understand that distinction, right? I'm still Sadiq Abdullahi. I came from poor, all of the people that are in the academy that he talked about, right? Their parents cannot even put food on the table. My parents cannot, are struggling to put food on the table. So we know that. So that is the angle that I'm coming from, and a lot of us that represented Nigeria. Remember, most of us are ball boys, right? So there's no level of arrogance now after we've gone through this and become successful. And I think the point the Federation has been missing as far as that is concerned, that there's no arrogance in my accomplishment, because my father cannot read and write in English, okay? He was a messenger to the federal government in Lagos, State House in Nigeria. So all of this information are coming to the president and the board, that yes, in order for us to come together, we must build relationship first. And that is the problem I see. The Federation in the past have not really taken the time to build relationship, because the perception is that, yes, we are either too critical or maybe our approach. And I told the president last year, that yes, there's ignorance on our part, there is this exuberance on our part, and we've matured and we can come together. So now, finally, to your point of mobilizing Nigerians, it's a tough job to mobilize Nigerians in the diaspora, tough job to mobilize Nigerians in Nigeria, and tough job to mobilize Africans to come in and then buy. But we're making progress. I'm really, really excited that, that the president came out and then spoke the way he has spoken, for us now to go back and rethink our approach and then come back, and then now that 7 years, going to, is in his 8th year, right? So I'm telling him, what legacy do you want to leave? Forget about, all the perception you've had about Sadiq Abdullahi, Ndiko Diesel, and the rest of that, right? So put that aside. What do you want to leave behind, right? We're going to be working on the guidelines for the National Sports Federation. If things are going the way I am being, in the conversation I'm having, to look at the new guidelines that will, and then the plan that will allow, government to respond to what he just said. So for me, I'm in touch with the minister himself, the current minister, right? We've spoken 2 or 3 times, and and hopefully those things that he mentioned can be addressed appropriately, bringing them together. I'm involved, like I said. I know what the problems are. I know what the solutions are, right? But I cannot do it alone, right? You have to trust me. I have to trust you. And if there are benefits, let us share those benefits, And I like one thing again, before I stop, right? He gave us specifics about what the grant he gets from ITF, right? And then the politics within the CAF, which I know all of these things because, a lot of people privately and I ask questions, right? So for that alone, my respect to the president. So this is, some of this problem can be addressed, right? If we all come together.
Okay. So President, we're going to go on a short break now. When we come back, we're going to be talking about, the business of tennis. Now the government is not really forthcoming with financial assistance, and this game needs to run. I appreciate that today you are a president who, can afford to chip in substantially if when the need arises. But what if tomorrow we have a president who is not financially as strong as you are? What is he going to do? All right, that's number one. Number two, if the government is not coming up with money, how do we then raise capital for the sport of tennis in such a way that the federation can be self-funding and entrepreneurs can make a lot of money out of this? Remember what Professor Sadiq Abubakar said when he said in the developed world, it's the middle class that sustains sports development. If we take that and we add it to your point about culture, if we can grow the culture and add that to middle class interest, sports can thrive in Nigeria, and tennis would be one of the top sports without a doubt. So we take a short break now. When we return, we focus on the money.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
You're welcome back to the program. You're watching Sports Business with Orufo Ezaga, and we're reaching you live from Plus TV Africa's studios in Lagos. All right, on the program with me today, we have the president of the Nigerian Tennis Federation, Mr. Dayo Akindoju, as well as former international and adjunct professor of Florida International University, Professor Sadiq Abubakar. Now, President. Sorry?
Abdullahi.
Sorry, Sadiq Abdullahi. Anyway, sorry about that. Okay, so to the president, President, you know that internationally, many of these tennis tournaments that we see are either owned by private investors or by clubs, community clubs or communal clubs, country clubs. These guys come together to organize these tournaments, not just as charity, but as business, because they make a lot of money from this enterprise. Wimbledon, for instance, is a private club. It organizes Wimbledon, which is the richest Grand Slam in the world. And they say, based on what I have read, that Wimbledon, the All England and Croquet Club, I think, that owns Wimbledon, makes 98% of its revenues every year from the 2 weeks of Wimbledon. Why are the clubs in Nigeria not taking a leaf from that to organize their own tournaments and then probably make money from this, saying that most of their members are high-ranking members in society?
Well, again, thank you so much. Again, I'll come back to the thing about culture. Culture of the sports. That culture that I've been hammering on, it's not just in playing the game. It's understanding that you should, as a human being living on earth, contribute financially and otherwise to anything about sports in your country. It's a basic thing that if it is not there, then no matter what you do, because I'm coming to approach you to talk to you about tennis. It is easier when you already know that tennis exists, number one. Tennis is important, and it is my responsibility to support the development of tennis. You are prepared. You are a prepared vessel that approaching will be easy, and so further conversation will almost automatically fall in. But now, a lot of people, of course, we have over 40, 50 different sports in Nigeria, but let me stay with tennis. A lot of people know that tennis exists as a sport. A couple of people too partake in tennis purely for recreation. But the well-to-do, people that can bring out funds to support the developmental part of the game are generally very, very reluctant for a couple of reasons. One, I won't want to go the negative. Maybe they have been beaten because, of course, there are several federations. Some federations go take money, they don't do what they say they will do, and then when another federation goes to the same person, everybody goes to Dangote, everybody goes to Otedola, everybody. There are few names, among the big set of names, but there are others anyway. So at the club level, even at the club level, we have a lot of people. I run a club too in Abuja Country Club. We have a lot of people there that can come together easily. But the first question is that culture in them? The culture is not just playing, it's in participating in the development of the game. So that part is still very gray. People that has that it's not people with money, but people that has that what it takes to give. You understand? Because they believe that if you support tennis or if you support sports, there is a future for the kids you are supporting and for the games entirely. There are very few.
Yeah.
They are very, very few. So what we have done and what I very much hope very soon I'll get people of like minds with us and a couple of other people is start. There's one thing we need to do. I don't know if you remember one conversation we had, Clem. Set up something that will attract everybody to know that, so this is possible. This is possible in Nigeria. A Nigerian can play at the Grand Slam level.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. We just hosted the Davis Cup, and for the first time in a long time, we got promoted to Group 2, World Group 2 stage. Which is like the next to the stage, World Group 1, which is the highest level Nigeria ever got to. Sadiq was part of that team in 1988 or 1989 that they got to World Group 1. If you know the number of calls and people that want to see me, that want to talk to me about tennis, that want to associate with me about tennis, especially like a kid that nobody believed in, became the revelation of the tournament. I'm talking about Michael Akman, Emmanuel, and a couple of the other players. It has brought activity and prominence and, of course, engagement on the sports to the federations. And we are taking them one by one. So there are several approaches. But one approach, which is very, very important, is to do something that will prove that with proper structured and funded program, we can achieve success. Once success is achieved, people will run. That's one thing about Nigeria and of course everywhere in the world. Once they see that a Nigerian is doing well, out of any sport, everybody runs to that person and of course that program. So I'll go back again to Oron Academy. Oron Academy started 2-3 years ago, and they took 3, 4, 5 players that they noticed had potentials, got 3, 4, 5 coaches around them, gave them everything, made them play tennis, made them go around the world, participate in ITF junior and then of course now senior tournaments. And then as that went on, a player that was not very well known became, and is today, the #1 player in Nigeria, which means it's possible when people are groomed with the proper pathway as it is there, with programs, it's possible to achieve, excellence.
Okay,
so that's what it is, basically. Do an event, a couple of them, if possible, and this is where it doesn't have to be with the federation. If Sadiq Abdullahi, for example, brings 4, 5, of course, I hear Nduka Odizo is coming. Send me an invite to Lagos to run a clinic and do some programs. Nduka Odizo has a very good brand. He's a Nigerian that, as of today, I think only one other person has come close to his record, reaching what's it called, the 4th round of the Wimbledon, event. He's a brand. He's a brand, but we expect when that kind of brand enters, everybody wants to go and see him. When Serena Williams came and her sister came to Lagos Law sometimes ago, everybody, I know so many people that flew from Abuja to Lagos to go. So people run towards a success story. Okay. So as we start to have that thing, pocket of them here and there, and see that, with little support or with something happening around somewhere, good results can come out. We see that culture get developed and funding will follow.
Okay, fantastic. So, I understand culture. I understand the fact that, people need to do a bit more, especially the people in the tennis community, as you have highlighted. To know that, look, if you're playing the game, if you love the game, then, it makes sense for you to invest what you can to ensure that future generations benefit from, from what you leave behind. I'm going to go to the prof now and ask him, like the president has identified different stakeholders, for instance. There's the federation, but then he spoke about the clubs, he spoke about the academies, and then, about those 3 and more. And so if who do we turn to, who do we really turn to for guidance? There's a question I think I should ask the president before the board. I'm going to ask you. Please respond to what I have to say. Then maybe we'll go back to the president. And I'm going to ask you the question. Okay. Maybe the president will have. Now the question is, who is supposed to have a roadmap, a master plan of how tennis is supposed to get from ground zero to the top, and where each stakeholder fits in, right? So that's one question, Prof. Mr. President, you can answer that as well.
We have the federation has that incidentally, we have them in multiple platforms.
Okay.
There is the biggest one, which is from the ITF. It's drawn. You only adjust to suit your own local conditions.
Okay.
The pathway for development is very clear. You take a typical ITF tennis site, you will see everything about development of tennis in every department. And we have that document. But again,
is that document tailored to the Nigerian realities?
Exactly. It is tailored towards that. We have those documents. We have had them. We have reviewed them. The documents that are not because the document too only gives you guidance of how to run these things. But if the funding for each part of the thing is not readily available, or you don't have off-takers to take some part of the funding, for example, media, because that's they are part of the program, the developmental program, or physiotherapy, or any of the departments, for example, if you don't have all off-takers taking all or some of these things, you find out that you start, this side is working, the other side is not working, and of course you need a full robust thing where from the local government to the state government and of course to the academies, to the clubs, these are all everybody participating to ensure
who is the champion of this? Is the federation that
of course it's the federation. It's the federation that
okay, so let's go to Prof now because of time, so that I can have his say. Prof, you live in a different country where things work, I imagine, as they're supposed to. What would you suggest, based on what you have heard so far, is the way to go in the Nigerian situation? Do we forget about government and just totally focus on the private sector? Do we get the clubs on board? That's the communal clubs, do we get, what do we do?
Well, first of all, you're correct. The full name is Sadiq Abubakar Abdullahi, right? So that needs to be right there. I like those three to go together right now. It gives me my professorial distinction between tennis player and the academic guy. Okay, listen, there are five areas that the president has gone through. He started with moral aspect, linking to the corporate social responsibility of individuals, corporation getting involved, right? That's the moral part. Then now we're going into the substantive aspect of our discussion, which focuses on what? Technical, strategic, political, and economic aspect of sports business and particularly tennis business. So let's make sure we put them, compartmentalize them well so that we can understand and then bring the pieces back together in order for us to be able to to measure what we're doing. Now let me go back to your question and clarify, right? Now, the International Tennis Federation is the big boss. The president is correct. If you go to their website, everything is there. Guidelines and guidance are there for all of the partners, all of the countries. Let me go back to your Wimbledon reference, right? The British Lawn Tennis Association, in partnership with that club, they work together to now the right for Wimbledon, right? The USTA organizes the US Open. The Australian Tennis Federation organizes the Australian Open. The French Open organizes that. So let's understand the relationship. It goes back to what he's saying regarding culture, right? There's no argument about that. We must build a sustainable culture in order for us to achieve what we want to achieve. So that is number two. Now, coming back to Nigeria, he has said everything. I mean, look, these are conceptual discussions. We've had this conceptual, we're talking about, what to do, how to do, and all. We've been saying that for years. So it has come, and like I said, I'm happy. It has come to a point. He got to is before he became the president. There are over 10, 11 other presidents, since 1960s that have been, coming up trying to figure out, what to do. But we're having a different conversation today because Ndukwu Udizo, that you said is coming, Tony Moore and all of that, and then Arum Academy that he mentioned, right? They are being given opportunity now. He's highlighting all of them now, to bring them into the culture. Now, let me be very clear and let me draw distinction between the role. The Nigerian Tennis Federation role is encompassing. So if it's looking for Abdullahi to come up with his little stuff, it's just a piece of it. Ndukwu Udizo organizing a clinic is just organizing a clinic to raise awareness of tennis. So if Arum is having an academy, right, and they're helping the little kids and all of that stuff, it's just a little 0.1% of what the Nigerian Tennis Federation, ought to be doing based on the template of the ITF. Now, what I'm hoping to hear is that now that the president is now, I like what I'm hearing, is trying to bring everybody together, right? I think the first thing is, to have a meeting, a Zoom meeting with all of these people that he just mentioned. And then let's see how each of them can contribute to helping him. And then to me, that transparency and accountability and all of that, now the Nigerian, people like me that have a lot of network and a lot of contacts, then I can now project, that look, there is a new repositioning, rebranding of Nigerian tennis by bringing this people up. Again, we must clearly define the role of each person. We cannot be fighting the president. I've fought the president, all my life. And, at this point, you want me to be fighting the president or fighting the system, right? So for me, Sadiq Abdullahi, he's not going to do that now because I don't need the Tennis Federation to do anything for me, right? So for me now is to work with the president in order to, again, I know my role. I know theory, I know practice, and then the business of tennis or sports development can be achieved only if we can package what we just talked about and then present it and market it to Nigeria and the rest of the world.
Okay.
Responsible will come.
Okay, Prof. Thank you very much for that. Presido, we've run out of time actually. So we've come to the end. If you have just a final thing to say, very quickly, 30 seconds, and then we can.
Two areas that I'm looking out to desperately get funding from is the lottery fund, the Lotto fund in Nigeria. Of course, that's an organization that should be able to support sports development. And then, of course, CSR from very big government parastatals, because CSR is meant to support anything around whatever you're doing. I expect customs, with whatever they get, and they have a budget for CSR, give sports, because it's part of what those funds should go for.
Okay,
yeah,
fantastic, Mr. President. And on my part, I think that the government should think a bit more about sports, because Oktoberfest that is coming is likely because our young people are not productively engaged, and sports can do a lot of that for the government. It's also a great distraction that leaders across different civilizations have used to put people in check. All right, it's been fantastic having both of you on the program. Mr. President, I thank you. Professor Sadiq Abubakar Abdullahi, I thank you also. Yes, I thank you also for joining us again. Of course, we're going to engage more in the future, but until that time, this is me, Orufo Izaga, saying, be productive, be good, and stay safe.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back at the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Participants of the Extreme Chainsaw Carving Show have just a few hours to turn a cedar block of wood into a beautiful work of art. VOA's Natasha Mzogvaya reports from Arlington, Washington in the Pacific Northwest.
Two things strike visitors to the Extreme Chainsaw Carving Show: the sound of multiple chainsaws of various sizes hard at work, and the strong scent of fresh-cut cedar. 20 chainsaw artists taking part in a 3-day marathon carving event in Arlington, in the state of Washington, showcase their work. Lane Warden says being able to improvise is a crucial part of the process.
Sometimes you start doing a bear and you might end up with a bird. You know, if you mess up on a cut, it doesn't necessarily mean you messed up the whole carve. It just means, you know, you gotta change direction. My mind's going 100 miles per hour every single time I'm carving.
Eagles, bears, wolves, owls are quite popular with the artists. Warden is carving an alligator, not something you'd normally see in the Pacific Northwest.
I get bored doing the same thing over and over again. So when I come to these shows, I just like people to see that there's, you know, other carvers out there that try new things all the time.
He says picking up the wood is the most challenging part.
The wood gets pretty heavy, like that Groot over there. That Groot probably weighs 300 pounds, so that's always the challenge, is just picking it up.
Chainsaw carving was seen as a predominantly male domain. In recent years, a growing number of women carvers have taken part in live shows.
For me, it's not so much about the competition, it's actually about the company and all the amazing people that participate in this event.
Lee Woody, with a day job at a software company, got into chainsaw carving 7 years ago, following an attempt to build a house for a squirrel. She says beyond craftsman satisfaction, this art has additional benefits.
It is a full body workout. A lot of the time doing these type of shows, I will have walked basically 10 miles around the carving, and then it's also for your arms and your upper body. You do this for 8-9 hours a day for 3 days straight, you definitely get tired.
Using sharp power tools and fire requires gearing up.
Safety is always on your mind. These pants, for example, they're chainsaw carving pants, so they have Kevlar in the front and wrapped around all around the back. I'm always, wear the ear protection, eye protection.
Some artists are part of the tight-knit local carvers community. Hagdorj Dortsuren, called George by his peers, came all the way from Mongolia, where he carved sculptures from ice.
I want to learn. The chainsaw carving is for me, where my country is very new. Ice carving is more hard. It's cold and more clothes and more tools. I like more chainsaw carving.
Veteran artists swear that it's not as hard as it looks. One just needs to see what's hiding in that bulky block of wood. Natasha Mozgovaya, VOA News, Arlington, Washington.
I love love. I really do. But sometimes I feel like it's a bit overrated. I wasn't a fan of this discussion because we've talked about love languages so many times. I mean, we know the acts of service, words of affirmation. There's so many things to be discussed. But the ladies in the lounge said we must talk about it.
We have to.
So I am here. Let's do the conversation. Let's talk about it. Before I go further, let me do some introductions.
Those who are in the house today.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I must welcome you. Let's not get too familiar and not forget to welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm going to, this is Ndidi. She's here with us. She's a serial entrepreneur. Tell us a little bit about things you do.
Okay. We won't finish today. I knew he was going to say that. But I'm an event consultant. I also run a fashion clinic. I've just started the food business. I own a bread factory. And you love your wines, man. I love my wines. And then I also have a TV show.
Oh, perfect. Beautiful.
Regarding, you know...
And then we have Adesua Onyenokwe.
We know.
Yeah. Director, producer. I mean, she's the brain behind this.
Yes.
Then we have Dion, our in-house writer. She writes really sexy stuff. And then we have the...
Sexy stuff? Yes, I do.
That
scandalize you.
Then we have the coconut woman. She does so many things with coconut oil.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
First and foremost, a media consultant.
Oh.
And then, serial entrepreneur, coconut production.
It's obvious that we're going to have a very interesting conversation.
Absolutely.
Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're back in the lounge to talk about this love thing. My name is Anna. I keep forgetting to introduce myself. My name is Anna Chonogo, and I'm a lawyer turned new mom coach. So, Dion, you like this love matter. Please, tell me about it.
I'm a hopeless romantic.
Absolutely.
But I say to myself, what is this love really? We're talking about love languages earlier on when we were not on, on camera. And there are basic love languages. There's about 5 of them.
Okay.
And everybody has a primary one and a secondary one. So really and truly, I know that's not a very Nigerian thing, but you have to identify which one so you know what works for you, especially in picking a partner. I think we have quality time, words of affirmation.
Acts of service.
Yes, gifts, or giving of gifts.
Physical
and then
touch.
physical touch.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So most people have one that just speaks to you well. Physical touch is about intimacy, sex, chemistry, all of that, yes. So, and then you have a secondary one that could be a fallout. But over time, some people say the secondary one changes as you get older. Especially when you have something like physical touch as your primary love language. As the body starts telling you it can't move like that. So
the totori is not the same.
Especially for men. Because over the age of 45, a lot of men may have problems with erectile dysfunction.
Rising.
Yes. So if his primary love language was physical touch, he will start reacting to that. And it may have nothing to do with the wife. He just feels ashamed that he can no longer be as athletic as when she first met him.
Or the morning glory.
Yes, so, it doesn't happen as readily. So he'll start to hide from her. It becomes a thing of shame. If your love language is Indian and mine is Chinese, you're not going to speak to me in Indian because I don't understand it. You have to learn Chinese, and I have to learn Indian.
Yes.
But the mistake we make is that I will speak my own love language to you and expect you to receive it.
That language changes at some point because when you first met, you were both speaking Chinese.
Chinese could be physical.
That's what I meant. I mean, I'm talking about the physical aspect.
Well, half the time, if you are honest, if you meet a guy and he likes sex, you probably would, be
Play
freaky.
along.
Yeah, you play along because you are going somewhere. You're a woman, let's tell the truth. He likes sex, so let me just learn the new tricks and everything. Then you now marry. And I beg, I've had children and everything. It's first wait now.
I have to know, wait, Dion, see what my take on this is different. You meet a man first, from the very beginning. You get attracted. There's some form of attraction, which a lot of times it's physical. A lot of first
That's chemistry.
Yes, that's chemistry, and then that starts to get you.
Your love language,
because you find out that even when you're, because when you know that there's something, this is me being very, whatever.
Maybe it's this one.
No, it's not. What you can hold it. But the truth is, you meet a guy, and you go home and you're thinking of that person. It's a physical thing first. Most times.
Is it always physical?
Yes, but
it's really beyond that.
Beyond that, yeah.
I mean, I think we're taking it beyond like the initial
chemistry.
Chemistry.
You have that, yes.
It is how do you express to me that you love me?
Oh,
do you understand? In the way that I understand.
Yeah, that's what love languages are.
So for some people, it's material gifts. So you give her, a nice big designer bag, and that translates to he loves me. Or you spend quality time watching a movie together, or whatever, go to the garden, whatever, and that
means to you.
That means to you that he loves me. So it's identifying what it is for your partner.
Another word for it is, what is your mumu button? What is that button that they press for you
that gets you turned on?
Yeah.
Literally, emotionally.
It's not really turned on
not to say emotionally or sexually, whichever. But what I was trying to say when you made that comment was, at some point, especially as man and wife, when you start to lose it, it's not because he's having
old man issues.
No, it's either communication breakdown or you meet a guy first, he starts to spoil you. Because before any guy, you and I, we all know it, now let's be honest, the guy comes to toast you. He gives you this. He shows you that he's always thinking of you. Not about the designer bag, no, but he enters a store, picks up a card, picks up whatever it is, drops you a note. Those are things every woman wants to feel like all that you have in your head is my thoughts, me, okay? That is more than enough for you. But at some point, in marriage, is no longer that. If you're not being as responsible as you should be, if you're not paying the bills and everything, it starts to wear out.
But you see, that's the thing. That's the problem.
And you're not responding the way you used to when it was there at the beginning.
Love is about a lot more than that.
Exactly.
You have young girls getting online and having these arguments about, oh, if he doesn't have money. But you have some people that will marry. He has money, Abby. He's spoiling you. It's not enough.
Not enough.
They're still complaining, he now doesn't have time. You have to discover for yourself
what it is you're
what
looking
is
for.
your own mumu button before you enter that I do.
Then again, a lot of things are nice to have. There's nothing wrong with a man buying me, but some people, like my love language, my core love language is words of affirmation. I like you to speak to me in a way that affirms what we have.
Yes.
So it's nice to, of course, if you buy me an LV bag, I'll be very grateful. There are many things you do. Doesn't mean that that is a way that I'll go to bed feeling loved.
Okay, guys, let's be honest. You know, the whole reason of picking this topic was the fact that there's this song, if you don't get money, find your way. The truth is, today, there is hardly any guy that would believe a girl loves him. Except, of course, he has money. Because the girls want to see the money. So the guys are struggling to get money to get the girls to love them.
I don't really agree because now the women are
they have more money.
More independent.
What about when both of you are in school and you're falling head over heels?
Exactly.
What is going
it's
on
not
there?
the money.
It's not about money. You're both students, you don't have money.
To be honest, money is nice to have.
No, of course it's nice to have.
But it doesn't sustain, obviously. There are many more things that women are looking for.
But she's correct. Does money press that button for women? No, doesn't press it for me. I'll tell you honestly, I've seen women who make all this noise about money.
Yeah.
Then they find one, excuse the expression, small boy, that just adores them.
Gives them all the attention.
And he has nothing. I'm talking about these women have money. He has nothing.
That's because the woman has no money.
Guess what? It wouldn't last. Because at some point, that person
But I'm just telling you, and I'm telling you that she doesn't need the money.
It becomes a burden.
The money is not what is doing her. She wants the attention. If she finds a man that has some means, but gives her the same attention that person is giving her, she might be a bit more accepting.
Definitely.
It's not the money that's worrying her. So that whole if you don't get money thing is not really a thing
It's back
for me.
then, but not now.
Well, you people are a lot older, forgive me. So
I beg your pardon. I'm only about 20 years older than you. Only 20.
We were talking about this money thing, you know, a while ago, and then someone asked me, so if the man you married today didn't have a car, considering that you had a car before,
would you marry him?
How would the relationship have gone? Would it have led to marriage? Is this something that you would have been open to? In fairness, I thought about it. If I was dating somebody that didn't have a car and I had a car, would I always be happy that he's driving my car? Would I say I'm a humble woman and drop my car and tell him, let's enter bus, since that is what you can afford?
Okay, can I qualify this?
You wouldn't be attracted to him in the first place.
They always say in counseling, when we counsel marriage, the 3 marriage breakers. Love, faith, sex, and communication. Sex, communication, and money. Sorry, my head. Now, your love languages are part of communication. How you communicate with each other. So those 5 things happen in that sphere, and that's the most important part.
They said family was one of those deal breakers
but
in marriage.
sex, very important.
Sex, money, family.
Money, very important. But love is not necessarily, when you say marriage is not necessarily about just love. Marriage is also about commitment. You can find 2 people together who are not crazy about each other any longer, you know.
But they stay in it.
But they stay in there. Towards the tail end of my marriage, I was committed to the fact that I was married. So
And
it
how you
wasn't a
stay that
love
long?
thing, yes, any longer. You know, you find women in, questionable situations, but they stay because of the commitment. So that's not what we are talking
I'm
about.
not sure if it's
with
because
that,
of the
yes.
commitment, Dion. I think it's more because of the
Let me
fact
get
that
more
you
comfortable.
sit down and you remember the good times. Do you understand? And that kind of outweighs what you're going through, what your
disagree.
situation in
Really?
at that
It
time.
didn't- it
So it
didn't
makes it
do
a
that
bit
for
more
me.
forgiving, honestly. Because there's situations where, yes, he does this, he does that, but you ask yourself, but when he was like this back then, he was so and so kind
Can
of
I
person.
throw a spanner
So
in the
it
works?
becomes a bit more
Would
forgiving.
you
for
love your guy if he wasn't bringing all the money, bringing in the bigger bacon?
I would.
Yeah, I would.
I would.
As well.
I would. I would.
Yes.
I mean, I
They
think
go hard.
I think. Can we be honest?
Yes.
Things
Go
can
hard.
never always. Well, I mean, I don't know. We're in a relationship where the man and woman are both working hard. Things will not always be the same. Where he's always bringing the major bacon, or you are. Sometimes, it's a synergy. So if we're going to be honest, it's not going to be sort of like that
What if
all of the
you're in a
time.
situation where it's no longer a synergy, where, okay, things happen for him, he doesn't have it all, and you keep carrying and carrying and carrying.
Let me give him an example of what you're talking about.
I'm the one bringing all the money in the house. I'm paying the house rent. I'm doing everything. Now, I fill the fridge with beer, Coca-Cola, whatever. Beer is his favorite. He's going to watch a soccer team. The soccer team on television. And he goes to the fridge and opens and takes up a beer. And I ask him a simple question like, you never drink rich today? It can turn nasty.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It can turn
I
nasty.
think that if it's the laxity, it depends on how he's taking it.
Yes.
Exactly. Because if I know that this
And
is a
men never
temporary
take you
thing,
well.
you went.
Thank you.
They never take you well.
For instance, if I see that, you're working hard at it, let's say you lost your job, God forbid, my husband lost his job. Woo!
Yeah.
You're making an effort.
Well, God forbid that he lost his job.
And why are you
And
saying
then-
God forbid?
Why are you saying God forbid?
Because to be honest, I say to people
It's
that me,
difficult.
I prefer it that my husband earns more.
Exactly.
Because you have less drama.
Yes.
That's the truth. Because everything you say, if you're earning more, is going to be misconstrued.
Okay, but you see, because of here, is it also a function of where we are? Because places like the US, the UK, if you look at two high-powered people and their children are suffering, they ask whose salary is bigger.
You stay
If
at
her
home.
own is bigger, the man will say, I will become a house husband.
Hey, hallelujah. That day will happen in Nigeria.
You see, yes.
But
the
guess
way
what?
it's based on...
It's not our culture.
No, that's okay.
Nigerian
Then that's
man
the problem.
But culture
that
is
decides
determined.
to become
Then
a house
yes,
husband
but
will
that's
get
the
all the
problem.
disrespect in the world.
Why-
that is the
why-
truth.
why
I've
would
seen
you do
marriages
that?
break up because the men are not living up to.
So whose fault? Is it the man who can't take the fact that he's not the one bringing the bacon, or the woman, or the society that will be looking at him that your wife money now you
Because of even the way society looks at him, he starts to even act funny. Do you understand? I see men that are not doing, and their wives are doing
agree with
everything,
that,
and they start
You
to
agree,
act
right?
funny.
Yes.
But he knows deep down that, but they don't care.
This thing you're saying has reminded me of something. When my dad was working before, there was this lady that was she was the staff, and then the husband wasn't. And in the morning, he would wake up, take his gym bag, and he's off to the gym. This man has gone to work. And he's jogging. I know, we look out of the window and be like, this man.
This man,
Yes, and then
nerves. That's
at
what I
some
call it.
point, there was a time that they had a fight. I think he had a fight with her mom while she was at work. He now beats the mom.
Okay, but you see, but that's the thing.
The
All of
insult
what you're talking about things that have to do with, that keep marriage together. Now, what this is really about is love, whether you're married or not, if you're in a relationship, what are the things that speak to you? Even a relationship between two friends that are female.
Oh.
Yes,
Value.
value. What makes you feel valued? What language, what speaks to you that makes you feel valued?
Communication.
You and your mother.
Dion, in every relationship and in every form of communication, okay? Relationship between two people, you must add, what are you bringing to the table?
Thank you.
You must add value.
Yes.
Even
Why am I your
in a
friend?
normal relationship, if you're not adding value to my life, why am I your friend? The same thing with a relationship with husband and wife.
So what is value to you, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
What is value to you? Okay, I mean, like you said, right? Like you rightly said, there are times when anything can happen where the man doesn't have it like he used to. But guess what? You're also still very responsible. You say
How do you
to
mean?
your
The
wife,
person that doesn't have
in the
money?
state, the person that doesn't have money, let me take care of this because you're fun. Not in terms of payment or I'm making sure that the kids are okay. I'm making sure that because I see you're working too hard. You come back from work. You ask the man, you make me food. I'm telling you, it will make me feel good. I wouldn't, but I do all the work. Then I come back and I have to cook for you.
Then I go to the
kitchen. I have to open my legs at night for you. I know you're on your own. Not just I won't. You understand? It's not
We'll
fair.
continue from where we stopped.
Okay.
When we come back into
Yeah.
Welcome back to the lounge. We're talking about love languages, what communicates love and value to you as a person. Yes, I have this friend that used to, I think I used to try too hard, you know, so I didn't realize that she didn't value me as much.
Aha.
Yes.
So we're taking away from husband level.
Yes, I needed her.
Friendship.
I was a little bit ill and she was in town and I needed her to just be there. You know, quality time is very important to me. You know, just be there. And she had other things she was more interested in.
But
and
you
we've been
always there for
friends.
her.
Yes, and we've been friends for over 2 decades. And that really hurt me. And I don't think we've recovered yet. We had to talk about it, but I don't trust her anymore.
But do you know, it's,
Yes.
it's the same
Yes,
thing.
I don't
You see, I
trust
say
her
to people
anymore.
in marriage, your husband is your friend.
Yes.
When you start to see your husband the way you see you and I are, then it helps the relationship, it makes the relationship healthier. But we in Nigeria, we tend to see our husbands as husbands.
No,
you cannot. Do you understand?
That's you and your friend, your husband are very good friends.
I think
I think
the question here is communication. Even
Yeah,
with
it
your
is very
friendship
key.
or whatever.
Yes.
Maybe you find out your friend doesn't really understand what is your mumu button. My husband knows my mumu button.
Yes.
Yes.
Something as simple as popcorn. He brings it. They know that in fact that day you got me because I love popcorn.
Exactly.
What I love, you do it for me.
Yes.
But again, I keep telling, and it's something I keep telling my husband. I should start teaching classes. You know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the men have to do some work. They have to. If you want a woman to be a particular way, it's only important that you talk.
It's not sometimes.
Tell
the
her
men always
they
have
need
to
to talk.
That work.
You see,
They need to
why I use her as an
talk.
example. I've watched herself and her husband. I've watched Anne and her husband as well. Anne and her husband have it's like a silent communicator. They look at each other and
they
They
understand.
know she says something and he says, I was just about to say that. You know, it's exciting to watch. She and her husband, like, it was one of your birthdays. I think came to the office. They go to mass together. in the afternoon. Yes. You know, I've always admired both of them.
Yeah.
I think, for crying out loud, they have too many children. So there must be something
No, but
working.
isn't that evidence of how much we
Yes.
like?
He'd come in to get her for mass, and they said, "Come with us." You know, I hadn't been to Catholic mass in a long time, and when I got there, I was in between two of them. They put me to decide. They come, respect yourself. We are supposed to go
Don't divide what God.
we had mass and everything, and we were going to lunch and everything. She just turned to him and said, "Let me take Dion out to lunch and everything. I'll catch up with you later." It wasn't a problem. He got in the car.
That's
You know,
it.
so
They need
that's
to
what I came
communicate.
on.
Men don't talk.
No,
You know.
men talk. But there's this thing with us in Nigeria, especially for we women, we have this Lord and Master view of our husbands.
Not everybody. I don't.
No. I know. I do not agree with it, but I see women. You hear women say,
But how are you with your partner?
You travel. No. Dion, that's what I'm saying.
But that's why there are two different sides.
Dion, that's what I'm saying. No, Ebon, I'm saying to you what I hear a lot of. I mean, like, she knows now.
I know.
I travel, I do, you know. I hear my friends say to me, Didi, your husband spoils you. He lets you.
He allows you.
He allows you. And I'm like, no. He understands that I have to do this. Yeah. This is the way I've laid my bed. And there are no pretense and all that. It's wrong.
For me, you know, my husband, even my sons know. Flowers.
Oh, I love
We all kids in
so
Yes.
You're not Nigerian.
I love flowers.
I'm not, yeah.
So if your husband-
And quality time, family
Yes,
time.
family
When I
time.
enter my house, it's really hard for me to
I
get
mean,
out.
when we were
That's-
recording one edition of the show, and she was like, it was like 4 p.m. Oh no, these boys have been without me all day. I said, come on, come on.
No, but that's what works for us.
yeah.
Quality time works for us. What's your love language?
Words of affirmation.
Your husband is
physical
hearing.
touch.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
girls.
I'm one of those women that
No,
I'm
is
like,
it okay?
physical
Come.
touch.
Is it physical touch in public or in private?
Both.
I'm very
Which one is more important?
Both.
So how about those ones that are
partner to
touching
do
the
that.
physical outside and you're like, ooh, then inside you're like, please,
Okay,
your
so
lane.
no, but I'm very tactile.
Inside, I mean,
you know,
a bit
so
of
I
both
think
inside.
physical touch.
It's you know, I love you, baby.
Of the house.
That kind of thing. So people will be jealous when they
But
see
I
you.
think that when we're
I
talking
think you
about love
should-
languages,
yes.
I also think that there's something that we have to identify for a couple, let's say, or even friendships. There are fillers and drainers.
Yes.
So
Please
there are things
explain
that
to me.
fill you up, there are things that make you feel relaxed, rested, and all of that, and there are things that drain you. So I think that in communicating with your spouse, I learned this recently, so we have to itemize these things. What are your fillers? What are your, no offense, if I write your name as my drainer, maybe the way you rant. Like what I think my husband said was, Anne, when you are cranky, you are cranky. Drainer. Fillers. So I think that in also building togetherness and friendship in marriage, you should have pillars that are together. Because I realized that one of the things that we did was we had pillars on our own, independent pillars.
Okay, so you had to
communicate them to each
and
other.
then, yes, I never ever thought about it like.
So what we say at the end of this, communication is what's key to all of these things. Whether it's husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend.
To be able to talk to each other and say, this communicates this to me, value, this adds value to me, you know.
But I also think that when a man understands that a woman should be able to express herself wholly, it totally helps the relationship.
Yes.
Don't hold back. You're angry, say it as it is. That, you know, be yourself. I see a lot of relationships where women are afraid to express themselves for fear of, oh, my mother will not. No.
Which mother?
My husband will not take it. No. Be yourself. Voice out. Because you see, when I can scream and shout and say, I don't feel like I'm holding back on anything. And it relieves me. It's healthy.
It's funny. I think it's a training that we received there because even in sex...
Training from who?
The culture. Even in sex, a lot of women my age...
cannot express exactly what they want.
Can't tell their husbands what to do with their
bodies.
bodies.
My bodies. Yes. This is
no,
what
let me tell you
me.
about that one. The truth is,
you
know, when you say to your husband that I like it
like this,
upside down,
you say who taught you?
Where you for Lena?
Yes,
no,
where you for Lena?
No, but that is what
so we're worried.
No, that's what we think.
That's not a good thing. So we shouldn't encourage what isn't a good thing. You should be able to tell your partner, this is how when you brush your hand against my nape, this is what makes me feel.
When
you whisper in my ear.
But I have a question, right? What about the men? Do they feel a little less than men when they express that they need
that's important.
You know?
That's important.
Is that a problem? Is it difficult for them to communicate?
I think for us women, because we know that men, anyhow, in and out.
No, that was bringing to sex now.
That's what we're going to sex.
But besides sex,
for a woman, I always say to men, it takes a whole lot to get a woman.
You see, we're going to have to take this conversation out of the lounge and back online because we have to.
Oh,
it's such an interesting thing that we need to finish today. So I need to get your final thoughts on this. What do you think? What communicates value and love to you? Tell me quickly.
For me, is affirmation, like she said.
Yes.
Totally.
What's for you?
Appreciation and telling me where I've gone wrong and where I've gone right.
Okay, young lady.
Tell me that you love me if you do. I don't want to just assume. It makes me feel good to hear it all the time.
I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Yeah, for me, it's quality time and the ability to be vulnerable. Like you will find me, because I'm a pretty strong woman, and I rarely put myself in a position where I need to ask for anything from anybody. It's always, but when I'm in that place where I can break down and cry with you, whether you're a woman or a man, your husband, and be vulnerable, that is my space of love language.
Well, join us again now. We can continue the conversations online at TW Conversations.
Yeah, right.
Instagram. Tell us your thoughts. Tell us what your love language is and how you express it. About communities. Well, my love language is quality time, like she said. I love to spend time with people that I love. Male, female, children.
I know you love intelligent people too.
Until we come back again another week.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
My name is Dakpo Ademosu. Here is my good old day story. I am always filled with nostalgia each time I remember those good old days. I look into the past with joy and gaze into the future with hopes of brighter things to come. I have many stories to tell. Was it when I followed my mother to J. Allen at Okebola in Ibadan to buy her brand new Mitsubishi Lancer car at a price of 1,310 naira? Or was it when she decided to change one of the tires of the very same car that she has used regularly for over 3 years at 22 naira? Those were interesting days when you dare not bring home a strange pencil or ruler without getting the beating of your life as if you stole a goat in the marketplace. Days at my former school, United Missionary College, Ibadan, UMC, when you would prefer to run away instead of facing a beating for losing your Cortina shoes, even though it was only one leg you lost, but still the same offense, after a school football 3-a-side set with our monkey posts. Oh, our parents at that time certainly did not spare the rod just to ensure that we are all who we are today. We surely turned out good. Wow, life was good in those days when every naming ceremony must come with puff-puff or pancake for the whole neighborhood. And each time you see those covered dishes arriving, you know that somebody is doing a naming ceremony nearby. We all rejoice because we have to share in the puff-puff. And same thing goes with the Ileya meat. Every neighbor shares the Ileya meat with the neighbors. And later years, we were always excited when school vacation was approaching for possible openings in organizations for a 1-month vacation job, which is supposed to train us on the value of money. And we were trained to develop a sense of responsibility and a culture of savings. How can I forget growing up with Kolo in my possession, which now all the children call piggy banks? That is, if any child has a piggy bank anymore. Every child had one those days. Can always be substantiated. And I stopped to think, why can't we have a brighter future that will be better than those good old days? Can we change the narrative? Yes, we can. Our children deserve a brighter and a better tomorrow, not a good old days, because that is gone forever. But we can still build on the future with discipline, foresight, and perseverance. Let us make the difference now for the sake of our children, Shemore, in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
and ordered the Nigerian government to halt its plans to establish Niger Air. Ruling was in favor of the registered trustees of the industry stakeholders who brought the case. The plaintiffs sought utterance. The federal government stated that demonstrations by far-right and other extra-parliamentary groups in parts of the UK have now been large and unruly, aggravated by the tragic death of the girls and spawning of anti-immigration narrative. Nigerian security forces have dispersed protesters in the Kari area of the Federal Capital Territory against anger, food inflation and bad governance, arresting at least 3 individuals. The protesters had gathered when security agents intervened, leading to tear gas being used to calm the situation. This parcel is part of a broader crackdown on demonstrations across Abuja, which security forces also firing targets at the MK Abiola National Stadium earlier today. Despite attempts to disperse them, protesters continue to demand an end to bad governance. As in a surprising twist, protesters have now begun even waving foreign flags, including Russian flags in various locations in Abuja. Protesters' demands include an end to hunger, food inflation, and bad governance, as well as the return of fuel subsidies.
We are warning in clear terms, and the President has also said we should convey this, that we will not accept anybody, any individual flying any foreign flag in Nigeria. That is treasonable offense, and it will be viewed and treated as such. So nobody should allow himself to be used by any individual. Also the issue of coups. Nigeria is a sovereign nation. Nigeria is a democratic nation. All security agencies are here to defend democracy and make sure that democracy continues to strive. We will not accept anyone pushing or taking any action, seemingly or for whatever reason, to want to push for any change of government. Democracy is what we stand for. Democracy is what we continue to defend. The military is going to step in when it is out of bounds. And we can see that for people, subversive elements to push individuals to carry Russian flags in Nigeria, Nigerian sovereignty, that is crossing the lead line. And we will not accept that. And those ones who have done that will go in for the books, and they're going to be...
Now, there was every fight between the miscreants and Tudunwada Kaduna district operators on Monday, as the youth continue to emerge in large numbers, destroying properties and looting shops. This was the intervention of the military that restored sanity in the area. Before the military arrived, hundreds of miscreants, old stones and old objects at the commercial bank near the Polytechnic vandalized staff cars and stole valuables. Activities came to an abrupt end in the area as customers and older workers were seen running away for their lives into the water, which was tense before the curfew was imposed and soldiers deployed to the area. The police had earlier warned that anyone found vandalizing or looting shops would not be considered as a protester brought a criminal. The police had reportedly arrested several persons who were shoplifters supplying the protesters with Russian flags and other offensive items used during the protest. Now moving on, the Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang has imposed a 24-hour curfew in Jos and Bokoro Metropolis due to reported cases of looting by hoodlums in the Boundary Road community and Zola Junction. The governor, in consultation with state security agencies, emphasized the curfew's importance to the safety and well-being of all citizens and directed security agencies to ensure its total enforcement across the metropolis. Mutfwang warned those planning to unleash further terror to desist immediately or face the full wrath of the law. He also called on security agencies to remain vigilant and proactive in their duties to prevent potential disruptions to law and order. Mutfwang expressed gratitude to the citizens of Plateau State, particularly the clergy and imams, for the unwavering support of government policies and programs. He urged everyone to also continue upholding the culture of peace as they work together to build a united and progressive Plateau.
There was an interface with the youths at the Azinyako Youth Center in Dadunkowa. The Commissioner of Youth and other youthful commissioners have engaged young people so that they do not channel their energy into negativity. And we harvested a lot of results. You could see that in the protest arena, which is like our Freedom Square, the old airport roundabout, people have been going about having peaceful protest. But we started receiving intelligence that people were snatching people's phones, people were harassing people, and were taking their goods. So we thought that that shouldn't be the lane we should go as a people, because the protest is supposed to be peaceful, is meant to be peaceful. And since it has taken another turn, government in its thinking and after being advised by security agencies, decided to impose a curfew on the city so that we'll have some level of peace before we review or lift the curfew. So His Excellency Barrister Caleb Manasseh Mutfwang is admonishing citizens to be law-abiding like they've always been, to even when they want to protest, it should be peaceful like we started, because Plateau State is known for its peaceful disposition.
Still on the nationwide protest, Nigerian protesters in Osun State have expressed dissatisfaction with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's recent address. They barricaded major roads and prevented movement at Nelson Mandela Freedom Park, Old Garage, Jebule and Ayutthaya Stadium Road in Osogbo. They criticized Tinubu's address for not taking urgent steps to address the country's economic crisis. Electricity tariff hike, high food commodity cost, and also anti-mass policies. Protesters plan to continue for 10 days and also for the commitment and to view their demand.
If we are going to stop, the state government and the federal government must show commitment. If they are not showing commitment, we will still continue with these protests. If we are not seeing a clear commitment in their regards, we are not still going to stop. We are going to finish the 10 days until we see the commitment from the states and the federal government, because our demands are true. We have the state demands and we have the federal demands. There are certain things that the state government has to meet up with, where there are certain things that the federal government has to meet up with. So in this regard, if they meet up with this, I'm telling you, they are going to protest.
All the statement Mr. President made yesterday is pro-politician and anti-masses policies, and we stand against that, and we are not going to back up until Mr. President address the main issue and the main target of the masses.
Moving on, the Kano State government has arrested 632 suspects accused of vandalizing public facilities and looting during the ongoing hunger protest. The suspects were arrested for destroying public assets. Out of the government, Sanusi Bature Dawakin Tofa stated that the government's commitment to maintaining peace and order is non-negotiable, and those found guilty of vandalism would face the law. The Nigerian police also confirmed the arrest of protesters carrying Russian flags.
We have been able to arrest some individuals who were calling for subversion and who engaged themselves in what I call treasonable felony. To carry the flags of a foreign country on our land is a criminal offense. We have them arrested. Just this morning, we have arrested one Ahmed Taylor from Kwana Hudu, a Nasarawa local government area of Kano State, for producing in large quantity Russian flags given to young Nigerians to go and fly. Based on our intelligence before this commenced on 1st of August 2024, I begun to manage.
Now, Dr. Abukefis, Governor of Taraba State, held a town hall meeting with youth representatives from 16 local government areas to discuss state development and youth betterment. Now, the governor pledged to listen to the youth and address their concerns during the End Bad Governance protest. He stated that 80% of his plans are for the youth's benefit and also emphasized tolerance for building the Taraba or everyone's dream.
We want to hear from you to know what is the immediate thing, what are those things that we need to do as a government so that we can look for resources and see how we can start addressing them. We're going to do them together. I have told you all my plans. I have told you what I'm going to do, what I'm doing. I'll still repeat them after this meeting. And then I'll build in some of the things that are going to raise here so that we'll be on the same page.
The youth in turn consulted the governor about their needs, including vocational and development centers, electricity, food distribution, medical facility upgrades, and security technology centers, access roads, irrigation farming, youth trust funds, Taraba Youth Development Commission, agricultural grants, and science education.
Your Excellency, I also wish to appreciate you that even on that day, when they came to the government house, you heed to their call and you came out to address them. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
I will plead with His Excellency to create vocational center for the youth. May you establish what is called the Taraba Youth Development Commission under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. If this commission is established, sir, every form of youth development program should be channeled there through policy, and you have an eye to put on that center. Through this center, you also be able to attract counterpart funding from other developing nations. We've seen NGOs working on funding youth-based programs in states. But if you go outside Taraba and see these things happening, we come back and we don't see them happening. It worries us, sir. It's a thing of concern. So I'm sure through that very commission, we'll have that done.
Our Chief Governor Timothy Katips, the Secretary to the Government of Taraba State, emphasized the CAF's administration's commitment to tackle youth-related issues.
No administration in Taraba had invested and deployed humongous resources for protection of life and property through empowering the security agents. And there are measures that His Excellency is planning to do very soon. It's not for us to discuss here. And you will begin to notice improvements when these programs are carried out, particularly as they affect the southern part of Taraba State.
Now, Enugu State Governor Dr. Peter Mba and also the Minister of Works David Myers praised the Southeast Zone for not joining the August nationwide protest during an inspection on toll road projects by the federal government and Enugu State government, to emphasize that the people of the region prevented unnecessary loss of human lives, businesses and property by avoiding the protest and showing good faith to the President Bola Tinubu administration.
Enugu is the capital of Southeast. We decided not to protest. Not only in Southeast, everywhere, an Igbo man resides in this country and outside the country. We all came together to say, yes, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is our own. We are not going to protest. We are not protesting, and we will not protest against this administration, irrespective of party affiliation. For not protesting, we are not going to protest. We want proper integration in the affairs of this country. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Mr. President, has started it, by giving an Igbo man the Ministry of Works. We have been excluded in governance, in development, in the past. But now you can see infrastructure development in Southeast. And so why should we protest against a man who has given to us what was never given to us before? So I thank you very much, and I owe the governors of Southeast, a lot, and I appreciate other governors, other states that did not protest. This president means a lot, means well, and is a divine president. And all the obstacles put on his way will definitely fizzle out.
I also want to take this opportunity to commend our people greatly for heeding to our call to shun the protests and go about their business. We want to commend them highly because they understand the value of hard work. Sometimes policies of government, you may not be able to appreciate the effect immediately, but I can tell you that some of these policies are well-intentioned.
Now, the Coalition of Northern Youths for Peace and Stability has criticized Afro State Governor Dante Lawal for using the hashtag End Bad Governance in Nigeria protest as a cover for his administration's incompetence, corruption and cluelessness. The group accused Lawal of orchestrating terrorists and miscreants to hijack peaceful protests, leading to violent acts, property destruction and looting. Now, the CNYPS praised President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's effort to address socio-economic challenges and called for security agencies to apprehend those responsible.
It is deeply disconcerting to observe that Governor Lawal orchestrated the deployment of thugs and miscreants to infiltrate and hijack the peaceful End Bad Governance protest, thereby perpetrating a plethora of violence act. These individuals not only targeted and assaulted prominent personalities, but also engaged in the wanton destruction of properties belonging to the APC and innocent citizens of Zamfara State. Furthermore, Governor Dauda Lawal must be held responsible for his role in perpetuating the deceitful and destructive agenda. We advise he desist from fanning the flames of discord instead of focus on combating corruption and addressing the pressing issue of insecurity within the state. By doing so, he can work towards creating a more harmonious and prosperous environment for all citizens of Zamfara State. Dauda Lawal is urged to take immediate action to rein in the alleged PDP miscreant and restore peace in the state. He must cease from exacerbating the tension and instead focus on combating corruption and addressing pressing issue of insecurity that has plagued Zamfara State.
Away from that, the Kogi State government has reported that 2 officials on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission headquarters in Abuja, despite not receiving an official invitation. The officials voluntarily reported its law-abiding citizens to demonstrate the government's commitment to openness to lawful investigations. The State Information Commissioner, Kingsley Farwell, expressed hope that the FCC will now respond professionally to the officials' actions and cooperate with anti-graft agencies to maintain transparency and maintain the confidence of development partners who have consistently awarded Kogi State with awards for transparency, accountability, and probity. Prince Kasim Afebwa, the media director of the All Progressive Congress APC Campaign Council in Edo State, has expressed concern over the state economy under the leadership of Governor Garden Basake. Now, Afebwa emphasized the need for a solution to the economic challenges faced by the movement and emphasized the need for a leader who can communicate and connect with local communities.
We want solution providers. We want people who are utility driven, people who can connect the dots and know where our ship pinches up. Not those who will be shouting, who can speak simply and all that. Haven't the own candidate be speaking Yoruba to our people? Haven't they be speaking pidgin English? To that the simply they told us that he understands so well. So you need to speak language that connects with the people. You don't need English to know that there is pothole on the road and you need to fix it. You don't need to tell you that hospital is bad, no drugs and all that, and you refuse to fix it. We don't need English for anybody to begin to confuse us with all manners of policies and programs that do not translate into something practical for our people to benefit from. You don't need English to remind me that, okay, the market got burnt and we need to fix that market. Opacity promised a lot of people that the market women that is going to fix the market, they are still there today, and now that the elections are coming, it's more likely to mobilize society, and we know that it's not going to do. And also in Edo, do you need to be speaking grammar? And people are saying, fix something, you're talking about grammar. Now grammar will be chop. People are hungry, they are telling you about grammar. Now grammar will be chop, the candidate, the PDP candidate. He has been an advisor to the government. He's talking about taking Edo to the next level, what next level? Well, you have been an advisor for 8 years, you can't even bring the policies and program to bear on the people so that the people will be asking that, oh, can we go? Why do the people are resisting Obasanjo and his sons? Because he has crippled the state. The state is crippled, is castrated, is in comatose. Every sector of the economy is bleeding. There's too much of plundering, too much of economic predators and buccaneers who have come to tear us into pieces and take our resources to elsewhere to go and develop.
Yeah, we criticized Governor Basake's current administration for failing in development states, and he is becoming a godfather to the Edo people.
This is the party to beat in the state. Coupled with the fact that we have a government that has performed abysmally low. Government that has received so much allocation in the last 8 years, so much, even in the last 2 years, and in the last 1 year, they have received so much allocation. Yet you cannot see corresponding impacts in the polity. If it rains in the Edo state, people will be lamenting, agonizing, and expressing concerns because of the flooding and erosion. When it comes to health sector, he has demolished the general hospital, the central hospital Benin, and is building his artifact home called Edo Museum. There are schools in Benin, Benin City, the heart of Edo state, that don't have chairs to sit in the classroom. Students don't have chairs. Ogwola's secondary school is one in Ikobaoha. You can go there and see for yourself. It's rotten, it's decayed. That is before the very eyes of the governor, and so many of them like that. I think education stopped where the Musumali left it. And in fact, the protest that is ongoing should be vote out bad governance in the states. A lot of states in Nigeria are not doing well. Edo is one. They are not doing well at all. Go around. The indices for development are nothing to write home about. APC is trying to beat and will defeat Obaseki and his anointed godson. He said before that there should be nothing like godfatherism. So I don't know why he's playing one now. Is it at the realm of hypocrisy or at the realm of double standard? So he should stop playing godfatherism. he should stop imposing people on the whims and caprices of his own selfish agenda.
Nigerian youth have been charged with imbibing high moral standards, simulating good virtues, and also striving for a better future. The Grand Mufti of Osun State, Sheikh Abdullah Yusuf Bajaru, addressed the issue at the Afle ceremony of Mubarak College in Osogbo. Over 114 students completed their studies in Arabic and Islamic knowledge, and the Mufti advised them to also emulate the virtues of the founder, Ajid Mubarak Yusuf.
I pray for the school. I urge them to emulate the founder of this madrasa, Sheikh Yusuf. I urge the students to emulate them in honesty, in good views, amongst others. And I pray for them. Their success shall be their portion. It's a great opportunity to be one of the graduates of this school today. And I feel an immense of happiness in here today. As I graduated as from this school of Arabic and Islamic, I humbly anticipate the future to be a great scholar of Islamic studies, and also in my field of studying in Western education, I pray for Allah to make me a good person in life. This is the 9th year to the States, and we are graduating today, inshallah Rahman. I say a big thank you to the Mudir of this madrasa, because he has been the best role model we ever had. He's a father figure, a mentor figure, he's everything to us. And I appreciate our Asatiza, we are the best father role models for us. They treated us as their children, they nurtured us, and they give us the best thing we ever had from Allah. This has prepared me for future because I'm a Muslim and I wish to know more about my religion. My attending madrasa doesn't really mean I'm to go out and do lectures in public places, but for me and myself to prepare myself for the future and be able to answer questions when thrown to me about my religion.
Now, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has intercepted 5 shipments of opium and also other psychoactive substances, including promethazine, pentazocine. We also have diazepam, tramadol, and morphine concealed in clothes and items intended for export to the United States and the United Kingdom. These drugs were discovered at the logistic company in Lagos on July the 29th. The seized consignment totaling 38.5 kilograms were seized by 2 suspects, Salami Sunday and Lekon Atoyebi, at the Murtala Mohammed National Airport, and Delhi also seized multiple consignments of illicit drugs from a courier firm in Lagos concealed in tins of like baby food and clothes. Now, the psychotropic substance, which has a total weight of 18.50 kilograms, was found in 6 cartons of tins of branded Nestle Cerelac baby food. Now, as Nigerians' economic dwindles, our citizens are grappling with the resulting hardship and looking to the government to alleviate their sufferings. And that's on Street Views. Do take a listen.
When I go to the market, things are very cost. Everybody is complaining. The hardship is too much. So we want the government to help us so that things will come down. When you have small money now you want to eat, you can't eat something that can bellyful you. That's why people want to protest. When things come down before that Monday, nobody will come out to protest again now.
So even a blind man that doesn't see, but he has the feeling, knows that things are not better. And the way I'm seeing it, our government are not doing anything and it can be better. You and I know that things are not getting better. And we do have to pretend. We have to be factual. When you have a good father should listen to you. A bad father brought out a rebel child.
No. The price is different. At least the price they are selling now is ×3 of them. At least if government can help us on the price regulation, So we'll be fine with it. The protest can go on for government to listen to us. People are suffering.
Everything is not the same like last year, last 2 years, even last 4 years. They are not the same. So the prices are too much. So if they can reduce it to normal price, at least out of 5%, if it is 3%, it's okay.
The price of the commodities is so high to the level whereby what you are earning before is still remain how is it. Then the price of our commodities in the market is multiple times 3, 4, like all like before. As a citizen of Nigeria, I have right to talk. That is, I am in support of peaceful protest.
Price of rice, price of gari, price of whatever it is, everything is expensive. The price you get today is different from the one you get tomorrow, and it's not getting lesser, it's getting higher by the day. I feel the government should do better because it is whatever it is that those people get that they sell back. So I don't blame the people, I blame the government. The government should do better. If fuel is okay, I feel people won't inflate price.
Now we've got a quick commercial break. When we return, the news continues. Stay with us.
Welcome to Bayes University, Abuja, Nigeria, with a legacy of excellence and a vision for nurturing future leaders. Bayes University is in a league of its own. We're all about our people, processes, and technology.
Bayes is one of the highly rated universities in Nigeria in terms of product quality standards.
We don't just produce graduates, but groom people into employers of labor.
And it has made us understand that learning is all about three things. We learn, we unlearn, and we relearn.
Bayes University Hospital offers a range of specialized services equipped with the latest technology, manned by a team of trusted professionals. And now, our vision extends beyond our walls with the Baba Ahmed University in Kano following our lead. Join us at Bayes University and invest in your future today.
Bayes University is the institution that you will get the best value for money education in Nigeria.
Bayes University. Learn to live.
Moving on to other parts of Africa, South African police have rescued 90 Ethiopian migrants held against their will at a property in Johannesburg. The migrants were discovered after a search for a kidnapped person. So people were arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking. While the alleged kidnapping victim was also rescued, the migrants are also believed to have been illegally trafficked and were kept in small rooms. Authorities, including Interpol, have now raised concerns over the trafficking of Ethiopian migrants through southern African countries to reach South Africa. The migrants are often kept in dangerous conditions, with previous cases of at least 64 people found dead in Mozambique, 30 bodies in Malawi, and 27 bodies dumped in Zambia. Over 100 police officers from the Democratic Republic of Congo fled to Uganda over the weekend as fighting between M20 rebels and the Congo military intensified in the east. Now, the officers arrived via the Ishasha border crossing in Kanungu district, Uganda, with 43 guns and ammunition. Over the past 4 days, at least 2,500 more Congolese refugees have arrived in Uganda, fleeing the raging violence across the border. The main push factor for the refugees is intensifying violence and insecurity with pregnant women, breastfeeding mothers, and young children among the refugees. The M23 have now been waging a fresh insurgent Congo pledged since 2022, which the United Nations have also accused Uganda's neighbor Rwanda of backing the rebel group. Mali has called diplomatic ties, with Ukraine after a military official suggested that Kyiv played a role in deadly fighting near the Algerian border last month. Dozens of Malian soldiers and mercenaries from Russia's Wagner group were killed in days of clashes with Tuareg separatist rebels and Al-Qaeda fighters. Ukrainian military intelligence spokesman Andrei Yusov admitted Ukraine's involvement in the attacks, accusing Mali of violating its sovereignty. Mali's army admitted to suffering significant losses during the fighting on the 25th of July, as the estimated death toll for Wagner fighters ranges from 20 to 80. Now, Wagner has now acknowledged that one of its commanders was killed and a Russian helicopter was downed in fierce fighting. Away from the street outside Africa, Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and also fled the country after protests against our government job quota system escalated into violence. Thousands stormed our residence a day after nearly 100 deaths in the unrest. The departure of Hasina threatens to exacerbate instability in the country, already grappling with high unemployment, corruption, and climate change. The military chief, General Waqar Uzzaman, said that he would seek the president's guidance on forming an interim government and promised to launch an investigation into the crackdown on student-led protests. The protests began peacefully but have since become an unprecedented challenge to Hasina and her party.
Students who are like our children were holding the movement. This movement came to end through the steps of the government and court. Even after this, if they have anything to say and demand, our Prime Minister has said that her door is open. She said that she will accept any rational demand. I think they should resolve their problems through discussion.
5 dead bodies came in front of me. Boys have been shot in the head. Tongues from their mouths were blown away. I can't think that I will need to see war within my own people. One after another dead bodies are coming.
Australia has now raised its terror threat level to probable due to an increase in extremist views, leading to a 50% chance of planning an onshore attack in the next 12 months. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese raised the level following advice from security services, but stated there was no imminent threat. Tensions in the Middle East, including the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, were cited as the contributing factors. Australia has now seen several violent attacks in recent months, some of which have been motivated by extremism.
I want to reassure Australians, probable does not mean inevitable, and it does not mean there is intelligence about an imminent threat or danger. But the advice that we've received is that more Australians are embracing a more diverse range of extreme ideologies, and it is our responsibility to be vigilant. We've seen a global rise in politically motivated violence and extremism. Many democracies are working to address this, including our friends in the United States and in the United Kingdom. There are many things driving this global trend towards violence. Governments around the world are concerned about youth radicalisation, online radicalisation, and the rise of new mixed ideologies.
Now, Iran has the right to punish Israel for assassinating Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh on its soil, according to its foreign ministry. The U.S. sends reinforcements to the Mediterranean Sea to help defend its ally and reduce the risk of a wider confrontation. Israel and the region are waiting for Iran's retaliation for the killing, which occurred in Tehran last week. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that Iran's response would be imminent. Israel is now relying on U.S. leadership to form a coalition to defend Israel and the region from aerial attacks. Now, North Korea has deployed 250 ballistic missile launchers to its southern border, a move viewed by its leader Kim Jong-un as a powerful treasured sword to defend its sovereignty. Now, the launchers were displayed during a special ceremony in Pyongyang, marking the first time North Korea has publicly announced the scale of an arms transfer to its border units. Each launcher was designed to hold 4 missiles, suggesting that Pyongyang's supply of arms to Moscow might interfere with the North's capacity to produce 1,000 missiles. Now, relations between the two Koreas are at a low point, with the North ramping up weapons testing and bombarding the South with trash. South Korea has now responded with resuming propaganda broadcasts along the border, suspending attention, reducing military deal, and restarting live fire drills near the border. Kim noted that presenting the new weapons at the time of flood damage was a manifestation of the firm will of the party to push ahead with the bolstering of defense capabilities. South Africa, the European Union has now ruled on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's contested re-election cannot be recognized due to the country's electoral authority failing to produce official voting records. The results published by Venezuela's National Electoral Council on August the 2nd cannot be recognized, and any delay in the full publication of the official voting records will cast further doubt on their credibility. The EU has refrained from recognizing opposition candidates Edmundo Gonzalez Rotier as president-elect, citing electoral voting records and also independent organizations' reviews. The EU has called on Venezuelan authorities to end arbitrary detentions, repression and violent rhetoric against opposition and civil society members, and release all political prisoners. Now we're going on a quick commercial break. When we return, the news continues.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space, with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
Glad to have back now. Straight to move on to business. The Central Bank of Nigeria is set to auction 216.09 billion naira of treasury bills on Thursday. The auction will include 16.59 billion naira for the 91-day tenor, 51.34 billion naira for the 182-day tenor, and 148.15 billion naira for the 364-day tenor. The recent yield of 28.36% is a 0.86% increase from the previous auction and higher than the 26.01% yields since March. The CBN plans to issue 1.56 trillion naira in treasury bills during the fourth quarter of 2024, matching the amount set to mature between June and August 2024. This is a 4.87% increase from the 1.57 trillion naira issued in the second quarter of 2024. And coming up next now is entertainment news.
Controversial Lagos socialite Idris Okuneye, popularly known as Bobrisky, has been released from prison after serving a 6-month sentence for mutilating the naira. The crossdresser was convicted and sentenced in April 2024 by a Lagos Federal High Court. Bobrisky's release was confirmed by close friend Abiodun Folashade Tokunbo, who shared a post on Instagram with the caption, "Finally out, Bobrisky, fine die." The socialite commented on the post, expressing gratitude to the friend. And moving on, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has visited the family of late music legend Onyeka Onwenu to commiserate with them over her demise. Onwenu passed away on July the 30th, 2024 at the age of 72 after collapsing at a birthday party. Sharing photos of the condolence visit on social media, Sanwo-Olu described Onwenu as a woman of extraordinary life whose impact through her music will forever be cherished. He prayed for strength for the bereaved family to bear the loss. And finally, American rapper Cardi B has announced she is expecting her third child. The Bodak Yellow star shared the exciting news on Instagram, accompanied by a photo showcasing her baby bump. The announcement comes as a surprise following reports of the rapper filing for divorce from her husband, Offset. However, Cardi expressed gratitude for this new chapter in her life, describing it as a fresh start. Fans have reacted with mixed emotions to the news, with some expressing excitement and others expressing concern about the couple's relationship status.
And that's the much can take in the news. This for more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Flow South Africa, and Plus Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from NineMix and NineMix.tv and Glo TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Emmanuel Olubobokun, and thanks for watching.
It is not the hope of this feature to blame anyone for the never-ending tension between police and the citizens. However, it is certain that there is always a tension with most people when they approach a police checkpoint. Many factors are responsible for this tension, including not knowing what to expect or do, seeing the police as the enemy, or even being guilty of an infraction. Many issues that go wrong at a police checkpoint can be linked to lack of proper communication and understanding on the side of the police force and also on the side of the citizen. Here are some tips listed by the police force about comporting yourself at a police checkpoint. Endeavor to slow down your vehicle. It shows that you're not reckless. It also douses suspicion that you're a criminal and may want to speed off. Turn down the volume of your car stereo. Courtesy demands this. Besides, you are able to hear each other better. This simple act will help you win the confidence of the security operative. Keep your hands visible to avoid unnecessary suspicion or fear by the officers that you're attempting to bring out a gun or other harmful objects to attack them. Turn on the inner light of your vehicle while approaching the cops if at night. It readily sends an unspoken message that you have nothing to hide.
That's the nature of your job, officer. Don't worry. That's the nature of your Everything job, will be fine.
Be friendly and cheerful. Commend the officers, especially when you see them working under very unfriendly weather conditions, such as rains and harsh harmattan conditions, excessive heat, cold, or sunshine. We know it's their job, but a little kind word from you will do a lot of good. Remember, when you smile at the mirror smiles back at you.
Officer will not come down. Let's see what you do.
Don't mind this.
We won't come down.
Endeavor to be polite when answering questions put to you by the officers. Don't dare or challenge an armed security man to a duel. Oftentimes, you hear people say things like, "Shoot me if you can." Note that this is a recipe for disaster. It is a very provocative and unnecessary call for war. So please, play safe, more so as you do not know the state of mind of the officer concerned. Also, don't go into a physical fight with an armed security officer. He may resort to the use of his weapon to defend himself. Avoid unnecessary arguments with armed security personnel. There are 1,001 ways to seek redress where you feel your rights have been infringed upon. Never try to touch an officer in an unfriendly manner. He may suspect you of trying to disarm him. If you're a regular traveler or road user, make sure you have the police emergency phone numbers of the route you operate. You never can tell when an emergency situation could arise and you need the police to come to your aid. Make sure you have all your relevant car papers and desist from actions or inactions that constitute either a criminal or traffic offense. Such infractions of the law provide a veritable grounds for possible charges and other forms of adversarial contact with the police or other law enforcement agencies, including unnecessary arguments. Don't give the impression that you're unhappy to see the officer on his beat or that he's wasting your time. But if you do have an emergency, politely inform the officer. Don't speed off while still being checked. Take note of the name tags, force or service numbers, personal description of weapon or patrol vehicle of the security officer, especially where the officers begin to conduct themselves in an unprofessional manner. Seek an audience with the most senior officer at the checkpoint if things are not working out smoothly. Politely insist to be taken to the police station if your complaint is not properly addressed.
I will take you through this amazing lesson today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Peptic ulcer disease is the disease of, not exactly disease, a condition, a clinical condition where there is an ulceration, meaning a wound in the stomach. Peptic, coined from the name peptic acid. Peptic acid is found in the gastric. So sometimes you hear gastric ulcer, you hear peptic ulcer. They're not physically different. They are just relating to the stomach. The only other different type of ulcer is duodenal ulcer, which is just the next organ after the stomach, all right? The stomach, which is the sac that contains food, also contains gastric acid or peptic acid that helps to break down protein. The word peptic there is directly related to protein, okay? So it helps to break down protein. But over time, there could be hypersecretion of this acid that could now cause a breakdown in the walls of the stomach. Now, the stomach walls originally contains mucous membranes or mucosa that prevents this acid from eating up the stomach lining. For some reasons, again, this mucous membrane could also be reduced or absent and further allowing this acid to eat up the stomach. And when this happens, you come down with what you call the peptic ulcer disease. Peptic ulcer disease can be caused by a couple of things. One of them is stress. During stressful moments, there's a hypersecretion of acid, right? Just to break down the food in it. It's natural. In the whole body, when you're stressed, the body metabolic rate is increased and intensified, and you have many activities going on. Carbohydrates is broken down, more proteins are broken down, fatty acids are broken down to provide one major thing, which is glucose, to allow you to think, send glucose to vital organs. One of them is the brain, the other is the eye, the other is the heart. All these organs, want to function optimally. Now, the gastric juice is also enhanced to break down any food in your body. So that's why if you just ate and you get into very major activity, not long after you'll be looking for the food. Or if you're chewing gum, because those are signs of stress. Now, so stress is one of them. But then when you try stress in an empty stomach, recurrently, you are giving room for this acid to act on the walls of your intestine. The second major cause of peptic ulcer disease is a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori. Helicobacter pylori is a very dangerous bacteria because, a bacteria that dwells in acid, I really don't know what you want to do to that bacteria, but basically, it stays there and it eats up the lining of the intestine, all right? So this is one of the implicative factors for those who are positive for ulcers. One of the third causes is the use of drugs, certain drugs, or certain chemical substances that are erosive, caustic soda. One other one is some of all these drugs you buy on the road, you just ingest them, you swallow them anyhow, especially pain relievers. That's why you don't just go out to take pain relievers just anyhow. They affect the stomach, and of course they potentiate, because what they do is they inhibit that mucous membrane I talked about that prevents the acid from getting on the stomach, and then they remove it, and you see you have the acid, the direct contact, and then you have some ulceration, wounds in your stomach, and it can get so bad that by the time those wounds get then straight to a vessel, it ruptures the vessel, and then you have bleeding. So you have people bleeding sometimes, all right? And then one other cause is a genetic factor. So sometimes ulcers can be genetic, all right? It's called the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, where the vagus nerve that supplies the intestine is hyperstimulated. Don't drink chemicals easily. The use of alcohol potentiates it. Regular intake of alcohol exposes you to possibilities of coming down with peptic ulcer disease. Now, one other thing is ingestion of diet. What kind of food should you do? High levels of acid-containing diet should be minimized. All right. Sometimes you see people taking all kinds of concussions, herbal concussions. You are exposing yourself to great dangers. Okay. When you do all kinds of acid-containing meals or diet, lime, you're trying to mix lime and ginger, and you're trying to lose weight, but you are potentiating something else. So it's important that you are careful. For basic treatments, you just get to meet your doctor who would prescribe the drugs for you, but you're not supposed to eat heavy foods, but just eat in bits, all right? So you wake up in the morning, you want to sometimes do alkalinized water, and then a slight breakfast, not anything acidic. A balanced diet is fine. If you must go for a fast, then tell your doctor. Major symptoms, remarkable symptoms of peptic ulcer disease is that you have painful sensation here on your upper stomach, many times that gets you to the back. Many people have diagnoses of peptic ulcer disease, which are really not peptic ulcer disease. So they come up to the hospital and they say I have ulcer. And I say, who said? And they say, well, my auntie said, or my uncle said. No, you have to have a diagnosis of peptic ulcer disease. And one of them, like I said, is a test of H. pylori. The other test is, which is usually the gold standard. There's URABRET test, one of the tests, but the gold standard is an endoscopy, where you get to see the internal organ and be sure that there's a wound there. And this usually happens when there's bleeding, from the mouth or from the anus. All right. Other symptoms, like I said, is bleeding. You have bleeding. So you don't just have pain. You have pain that spans from this upper stomach down to the back. So it feels like a dagger piercing through you, down to the back. It's characteristic of that. Okay. Especially worsened when you've not eaten or when you just ate. The moment you take in food, you feel that sharp pain that, wanes for a while. So food affects the pain. Okay, of course, bleeding is one of the side effects, one of the symptoms of peptic ulcer disease, bleeding, either from the mouth, just see slight trace of blood, or from the anus. One more thing is the heartburn. You feel that constricting pain, heartburn. Then lastly, there are few other symptoms, but one of the remarkable symptoms is a headache. You have a persistent headache that can be called a migraine. Not necessarily a migraine, but many people just say, oh, it's a migraine, but it's not. You notice that headache coincides with when you have the stomach pain, or it precedes the stomach pain. Now, that is a kind of symptom of a peptic ulcer disease. Usually, it's said that some of the brain cells, have some mimicking cells that look like the ulcer cells. So whenever the ulcer is firing, or whenever the gastric acid is firing, you have the same firing occurring in the brain, and you have that headache. Whenever you have it, you need to treat properly for peptic ulcer disease.
Corruption is said to undermine justice and the rule of law in societies. On this week's episode of Our Voices, we'll explore how women are affected by corruption as they seek access to basic needs such as health services, and even when they try to climb the ladder in leadership positions. We'll discuss this and more from a recent VOA Africa Division series that reveals misconduct across numerous sectors on the continent, entitled Dirty Deals: Uncovering Corruption in Africa. Hello there and welcome. I'm Oriani Tangishaka and this is Our Voices. And with me today is my colleague Jeannie Niwa. Siminish is out today. Hello, Jeannie.
Hi.
What are your thoughts on this topic, Jeannie? Are women more prone to corruption as much as men? What do you think?
I approach this topic being biased, thinking that, men are corrupted and women are all victims. But, recent studies actually shows that it's gender neutral. We are all susceptible to be corrupted. However, because women do not, have a tendency is not to have like those managerial position, and corruption is different type of corruption, they are less likely to enter certain type of corruption network, let's say. So there is maybe a difference in the type of corruption. They're more susceptible to be
You are very right. I do agree when you say that the perception is that men are more corrupt. I don't know why, but I think that it's fair to say, because they're not in the spotlight as much as women when it comes to corruption. And that's interesting. I'm going to look at that more, the research on women and corruption. Yeah. Well, joining us to look into this topic deeper is Mrs. Anne Mbewele Anamela. She is the Executive Director of NGOCC, a non-governmental gender organization coordinating council, who is right now in Lusaka, Zambia. Miss Anne, how are you doing? Welcome to Our Voices.
I'm well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, before we dive deep into the questions with you, let's watch this story from Nigeria, where some experts say corruption is really a systemic issue. For example, the country's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says the banking sector is responsible for 70% of financial crimes. Reporter Timothy Obiezu tells us more from the capital, Abuja. Let's take a look.
In April 2021, Uche Ohiri learned about an agro-business scheme that offered to pay up to 30% interest on investment in 4 months. She took the bait and invested $550. But the company shut down soon after, and its founder vanished into thin air.
I tried to log in. I had access to the website. I could see the fund. I could see the interest, but I could not do anything.
Like Ohiri, hundreds of investors who lost their monies reported the company to the police. But they found out via news reports that the same firm had been accused of a $70,000 bank loan fraud in connivance with corrupt bank officials. The bank in question, though, denied any wrongdoing.
It was a joke at first to me because it has never happened to me. Okay, you guys got to be kidding me. But unfortunately, it wasn't a joke.
Fraud is on the rise in Nigeria's financial system. Nigerian institutions have lost $201 million to fraud since 2020, according to the Financial Institutions Training Center, a research and advocacy organization. Experts say growing electronic payments and less stringent verification standards are making local targets more vulnerable to fraud, and that financial institutions are often unable to thoroughly probe fraud cases due to poor information sharing and lack of coordination.
The system is designed in such a way that its attempt to address corruption is superficial. We need structural strengthening, institutional strengthening, such that not just institution, even process strengthening, such that any conduit pipe for corruption is blocked.
The consulting firm KPMG says only 30% of Nigerian banks have fully implemented anti-fraud measures that allow mandatory verification of the customer's identity before opening an account. In 2021, the central bank asked bank customers to report unauthorized debits to its customer protection desk. Last year, President Bola Tinubu launched an anti-corruption campaign and called for support. And in January, Nigeria's Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, and the EFCC said they are teaming up to fight corruption.
We have our own constraints, just like every other organization. But we know that as a commission, that everybody's eyes on the commission. We have been doing our best. We have a good team.
But Boti says words must be matched with action.
Corruption is systemic, then we need a more systemic approach to fighting it. So with all of the initiatives that we have on ground, we need to begin to deploy these things in a truthful manner. So for instance, again, we have the EFCC. They need to do more beyond just picking some few persons here and there. They need to touchlight more. They need to investigate more. They need to prosecute more people.
The global financial watchdog, the Financial Action Task Force, says Nigeria has until May next year to address financial crimes, including terrorism financing, or risk being excluded from the global financing system, which would make it more difficult for Nigeria to do business and access international financing. Nigerian authorities say they'll make sure that doesn't happen. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Timothy Obiezu.
Yeah, and to go back to that gender neutral aspect, I think it's a very, very interesting research that if our audience wants to know more, they can refer to the OSCE.org. Well, they'll know. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Awesome.
So I wanted to ask you, Miss Anamila, is she here?
Yes, she's with us. Can you hear us, Miss Anne?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. So can you briefly give us examples of what constitutes corruption?
Well, I think one of the key things around corruption is that, firstly, it's usually an illegal act. And then secondly, it also involves abuse of one's position. And it It also is about that person that is initiating the corrupt action gaining some sort of advantage out of it. So normally corruption involves solicitation of whether it's financial or material gain for that person that is corrupt. And it happens, in various ways. It could be a request for a direct bribe. It could be double dealing. And as we are seeing in more and more these days, or maybe it's just that we're more alert, the issues of sextortion, all those border on corruption.
Right.
So it's about doing something because you're in a position, and then the other person needs that service, and it's usually around public office, though it does happen in other areas as well.
I agree. Bribe, extortion, and so forth. Well, let's come to Lusaka, where you are, where the president constantly speaks firmly against corruption. And in this next clip that we're about to watch, it's an alleged corruption tactic that happens in the health system. Our colleague Kathy Shorts covered it, and we'll come back.
Charity Musamba is a lecturer at the University of Zambia. She says she experienced the situation aptly described by the president. On March 10, she was waiting for a full blood count examination at a Lusaka health facility, along with her sister who was caring for her, when a medical staffer allegedly attempted to solicit a bribe from her sister, Albite Sato.
Look at the queue of people waiting to be examined, and there's only one machine. And in some cases, it even develops problems as it's been utilized. So if you want your sister to be examined, I can quickly push her name up the list. But that's on condition that you also help me.
Ms. Anne, when we look at this particular tactic in the health system, do you think that it's more of a corruption culture, or is it, just people who are innately like that?
I think it's both. There are people that are innately like that, but then when corruption is allowed to perpetuate in a country or in institutions, then it becomes a culture, especially where people think they can get away with it and where addressing corruption is not consistent. So it starts with individuals, indeed, but it does turn into a culture, depending on how it's handled.
Right. So the people can be corrupted as well as the system itself can be corrupted.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Anna. We'll, discuss more about the culture of corruption. For now, let's take a short break. When we return, we'll hear more from Ms. Anne Bewe Anamela, Executive Director of NGOCC, Non-Governmental Gender Organization Coordinating Council. She will help us look more at possible solutions to fighting corruption. And as usual, we ask you to share your thoughts on this topic on our social media platforms at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Our Voices. We're discussing corruption and how women are affected and also which part they play in it. With us via Zoom from Lusaka, Zambia is Ms. Anne Mbewe Anamela, Executive Director of NGOCC, Non-Governmental Gender Organization Coordinating Council, and will now help us look at some possible solutions to fighting corruption. But before that, in Ghana, corruption is a major issue, and state agencies mandated to tackle it are struggling to succeed in their mission. Civil society groups are taking up the challenge with initiatives that exposes corruption in the public sector, creating public awareness, and also pushing for prosecution. Let's take a look and then discuss this further. Isaac Kaledzi has more from Accra, Ghana.
That's because as a journalist, you must have a heart.
These Ghanaian journalists are planning for their next big investigative story. They work for the Fourth Estate, an Accra-based non-profit public interest and accountability initiative by the Media Foundation for West Africa.
We work with Ghanaians, we work with whistleblowers who give us information. And so we look at issues and we go deep into those issues. We bring them out in forms of, publications, online, write-ups and YouTube videos and all that, mainstream documentaries.
The publications focuses largely on anti-corruption related stories. Since launching in 2021, it has published several groundbreaking anti-graft stories. Among them was an exposé by the project on
authorities and to public officials.
Anti-corruption campaigners say fighting corruption in Ghana has become a daunting task, despite the country launching the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, a policy document with plans to combat corruption.
The National Anti-Corruption Action Plan was the blueprint for all of us to fight corruption. However, in all these very glowing attributes that I gave, you would realize that there are so many gaps within the system that we haven't paid attention to. And for that matter, it makes the fight against corruption a difficult one.
Some of those gaps include weak laws that hinder the work of state institutions mandated to investigate and prosecute corrupt public officials. Civil society groups like the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, are filling the gap and taking on the challenge. In 2017, the organization launched the Corruption Watch Project in an attempt to reduce public corruption through advocacy for transparency.
We are able to do original investigations. We have actual investigative journalists as part of the team that do their investigation, but we also try to follow up on cases that are alive or cases that we feel have been buried and we forgotten, that we think we need to revive.
The activism by the CDD team for the past 7 years appears to be yielding results.
We didn't want the issue of corruption to die and also to be episodic. We just wanted to keep it on the minds of citizens that we need to keep fighting. We need to take an interest. They need to join the fight because we're feeling that corruption was becoming normalized and people felt that, oh, well, that's how it is.
Thanks to the works of these civil society groups, the fight against corruption is on people's mind.
Both as anti-corruption and governance experts and think tanks, a lot of work has been done. We have shown evidence of research that corruption is an issue and it is hydra-headed. And to fight it, we need serious commitment.
Isaac Kaleji, VOA News, Accra.
Thank you so much, Isaac Kalezi, for that report from Accra, Ghana. And indeed, as you've said, fighting corruption is on people's mind, and organizations are trying their very best to do what they can to curb corruption. Now, back to our guest who's on Skype from Lusaka, Zambia, Miss Anne. Now, I often see police officers on the road when I'm on the continent, and they're in the heat of the day, and from what I can gather, their salaries are very small. Is increasing salary in government or civil service positions a sustainable solutions to curbing corruption, especially on the road when you are out and about?
Well, I think it's okay. That's part of the solution, but there is more to it. Earlier on, we spoke about whether it's individual or it's systemic. Mm-hmm. So at an individual level, I think there's need to in a way change mindsets, though, and that's not an easy thing to do. So it's both a cultural issue and it's a systemic issue, and these are personal issues. Increasing salaries might help, but then I don't know to what extent that would help. I think we'd really need a study around that, because there are persons that have been involved in corruption that were fairly in the high income bracket. So is it really about the salaries, or is it about systems, as we said, and about culture and just the practices that have become embedded in the way we do things? So if we were to, for instance, go by the route of increasing salaries, that of course would speak to issues around how the economy is growing and how that growth is sustained in order to sustain higher salaries. But I think it's a combination of things. It's salaries, it's regulation, it's the justice system, and it's looking at our culture and our values, and our values too.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Let's talk more about your organization. We spoke at the top of the show that, corruption, the corruption culture, which may be the issue. How does your organization work to curb this in place where it has become part of life?
Well, I think the first thing we do is start with ourselves as an organization. We have a set of principles that we believe in, and that we try to inculcate even in staff, which include transparency, accountability, integrity. And, NGOCC is a membership-based organization, an umbrella organization for 111 NGOs, CBOs, and faith-based organizations around the country. And we all share these values that I've spoken about. So it starts with us as well, even as we monitor what's happening in the country and try to hold other institutions to account. So because we're an advocacy organization and a mouthpiece for women in Zambia, we're able to speak up whenever we notice any trends, or we notice specific incidences of corruption. And then the other thing that we do is also at times engage relevant authorities to bring to light what's happening, or to find out how these issues are being handled, and also to suggest how best we can address issues of corruption. And we also form coalitions with other civil society organizations, because when we form a critical mass and our voice is louder, and we demand answers and raise some of these issues. As NGOCC, we're also part of the Universal Periodic Review mechanism, and we're able to also raise these issues through some of the shadow reports that we do, around these international processes as well.
Very well. We've looked at the banking system. We've looked at the health system. Let's look briefly about the education system. When we look at sextortion, sex for grades, who should we focus on mostly? Should we focus on the teachers, or should we focus on the students? Because we did talk about both the system and the individuals, and we know that students can also be perpetrators of, corruption. Who should we focus on?
Issues of corruption such as these need concerted efforts, when we look at all the possible stakeholders. So yes, the teachers, and this should start right from the colleges and the universities where these teachers come from. I think the issues of extortion should be included even in the syllabus. And when they get into the schools, when they're taken to the schools now, the school system also should have a system that can allow students to report these incidences without any negative repercussions, and also allow teachers to address these issues, because as you rightly said, sometimes it's both ways. It's the teachers and it's others, that's the students themselves soliciting. So it needs to start there, and then besides that, we have we need other regulatory authorities that will ensure that the schools, the universities, and all these other learning institutions are regulated in a way that will first ensure that, for example, we as civil societies could help by ensuring that we sensitize both students and teachers, lecturers against these practices, but also where there are laid down rules and regulations in an organization, even around reporting and around action when these reports are received. There should be regulatory institutions that do their work. And when this is done, also it should be very, very clear what the punitive measures are at institution level as well as at individual level. So it needs a coordinated response with various institutions and individuals too.
Absolutely. But what about the household? It's like not everybody's equal in front of corruption. What can we teach our children? What can be taught, in a household so, people are less likely to commit corruption?
That's a fantastic question, because we have, as NGOCC, now have introduced what we call a household approach. And that is recognizing that most challenges that societies face start at a household approach. And one of the things where we are encouraging in this household approach is dialogue in families. Sometimes our culture is such that children cannot talk to their parents. Parents think they really, it's the role of the schools, to teach some of these value systems to the children. So we're encouraging dialogue at household level.
That's right.
And this is working well. It has other effects that we did not expect, very positive. Like, for example, encouraging even women to speak out more out there because they've been consulted more and part of the dialogue at household level. So that's one approach that we are taking. And then there's also the churches. We have churches all across Zambia.
Thank you so much.
And some of these issues can be taken up there.
That's right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much. We would like to thank you very much, our guest, Anne Mbewe Anamela, Executive Director of NGOCC, Non-Governmental Gender Organization Coordinating Council, for shedding light on this very impactful situation of corruption we all of us face, especially women, and the fight to expose it. If you want to watch more of the Dirty Deals Uncovering Corruption in Africa series, along with this and other episode of Our Voices, go on the VOA website at voaafrica.com and our YouTube channel, where you can find the top news stories of the day. Thank you so much, and goodbye. Throughout history, men left their household for periods at a time to hunt or gather food for their families. However, severe food shortages during economic crises fueled by climate change often force men to leave their wives and children permanently. This in search of desperately needed income elsewhere to support their families. Today, we look at stories of women in rural Africa who are left behind and the challenges they often face raising children alone. We also hear what can be done in this situation. Hello, I am Oriani Tangishaka, and this is Our Voices. With me here in studio is my colleague, Jeannie Niwa. How are you doing, Jeannie?
All right.
That's great. Seminesh is out today.
That's right.
Well, Jeannie, separation is devastating for couples and families. Should men continue to leave and, you know, with the notion that life will be better if they go out seeking for food? Or should they stay and deal with the impact of climate change with their wives? Or maybe even migrate together, so for the sake of just staying together?
That's a very good question. I think we have to look at it not, you know, in a Western way. You know, regardless, men have to be a provider. So the ideal situation, of course, is to to have your men near you, but at the end of the day, the man has to provide. So I think it's accepted that the men will leave. However, is he coming back? You know, are you abandoning your family? How do you provide by, you know, being in a long distance?
Yeah.
And that's...
I mean, that's a good question in terms of, you know, is he coming back? Because for me, like you said, I mean, maybe the Western way of looking at it, I want the lovely, lovely husband to be always next to me. But the issue is when he leaves to go provide and never comes back. So essentially, it doesn't become a marriage anymore. It just becomes like a economic arrangement.
Yes, yeah.
And its side.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you. There are men who leave and they continue to provide and maybe even come once in a while, which is very tough. We've seen men have to cross the ocean to go through different lands, European countries and things like that, and they risk their lives to try to provide for their families. The sad part is when they actually leave and find better pastures and realize that, look, that responsibility over there is just not mine anymore, and the women are left to fend for themselves and their children. And we're going to see more of this in today's episode on how the challenges are and the burdens are left on women, right? In a special report produced by VOA's Portuguese service, we take you to the southern part of Angola, where women have seen their husbands leave them behind because of the drought affecting their region for many years. Now, alone and abandoned, women say they struggle to feed their children. Israel Campos visited some of the women impacted by the extreme weather conditions and climate, even as this report. He has this report.
These desperate babies crying in the scorching sun have never met their father. He left before they were born. Their mother, 38-year-old Katina Treza, says the twins, Jair and Jaira, were born in December 2022 and are two of her 6 children. Teresa raises them as a single mother. She says her children aren't orphaned. Their father, she adds, just disappeared.
I have nothing. I have nothing to give the children. I don't have soap to wash their clothing, nor food to feed them.
Do you plan to search for your husband? Do you want him back?
No, he did not call me. He ran away from here. He won't come back anymore. He ran away.
Teresa is one of many women in several villages in the region who saw their partners leave in search of a better life during the most intense years of the cyclical drought that has been affecting southern Angola for over 30 years. The women who in the most intense years of the drought between 2019 and 2022 saw many of their husbands turn into climate migrants. While some came back after some time, others never returned. This is where the 38-year-old Katina Treza lives with her children. The mother of 6 has to support and take care of them by herself since the husband has left 2 years in search of water.
When my daughter goes to fetch water, I have to take care of the twins. I can get them back to accompany their mother to fetch water, so I can only sit with them until she returns.
Southern Angola's rural population continues to face many challenges. The lack of food and water is still the main concern. People tell Voice America that they have seen many of their neighbors die of hunger and suffer from malnutrition in previous years.
We had 4 years without rain. Since the famine arrived here in the Bada area, many men had to abandon their women. The men said they were going to get food, but never came back.
Selepo is a farmer. She has 4 children of her own, but still takes care of 2 nephews. Her husband has not abandoned her. She says he's a climate refugee who started going to the capital, Luanda, at the height of the drought here in Shibia. Unlike some other cases, Selepo's husband travels back very often.
He goes to Luanda because of the needs we face here. Because of the drought here, there's no money, the cattle die, and that's why he goes to Luanda to look for better living conditions, and then he sends us money.
51-year-old Mwechia Wiza Kuchia wakes up early every day to take care of the few livestock he has left. Kuchia was in Luanda for almost 2 years. He says that life is not easy in the capital city either.
In Luanda, I worked in an iron factory. It was my brother who got me the job, but things weren't easy.
Now that he's back in Shibia, a town in the province of Huila, it's up to him to take care of an entire Kimbo, which is a set of houses that form a rural community known in the local language Mbondo. He looks after 5 families, including his 4 brothers, who also went to Luanda because of the drought, left their wives and children in his care.
When my brother's children are sick, I use my money to buy medicine, but there are days when I don't have any money either, so I have to go into debt to support their women and children.
The International Organization for Migration, IOM, defines climate migrant as those who must leave their homes and communities because of the effects of climate change and global warming. According to data from Amnesty International, which cites local organizations, in May 2021 alone, more than 7,000 Angolans had crossed the Namibian border because of the drought in the southern part of the country.
The villages are completely abandoned in the hands of women, children, the elderly, and people with disabilities because men are taking refuge to other locations, fleeing hunger and death. They are going to Luanda, Kunene, Namibia, and even to other countries.
Cecilia is a preeminent activist in the southern region of Angola, working with an organization called Association Building Communities. For years, she has been advocating for the rights of the most vulnerable communities. She says the government's lack of action for those affected by the drought is one of her biggest concerns.
Our government does not want to be touched by human suffering. It does not want to be touched by these people who have lost their dignity. In the struggle for human rights, nothing is more painful and humiliating than seeing another human being die of hunger. They die with no dignity.
Voice of America reached out for comments from the Angolan government, but the 2 departments we contacted declined our requests. Priest Pio Wakusanga has been advocating for the hardships many Angolans face in the southern region due to poverty and hunger.
When people heard that we had a community kitchen, they all started coming, including adults, men, women, and children. Some had to walk more than 90 or 100 kilometers, sleeping along the way for a few days, eating leaves along the way, until they finally reached us.
While the situation of poverty, hunger, and food insecurity of Angola's widows of the drought and children continues to get worse by the day, activists and non-governmental organizations on the ground continue to call on the Angolan government to declare an emergency situation so that most vulnerable people can receive the assistance they deserve.
Thanks Israel Campos for that really very good report. A lot of times people might say, we can make issues look like women are affected more than men in many cases. This is a clear example of when that actually happens, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, this climate migration is really an example of, how it's affecting women directly. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've seen here 2 years seems like a long time to
2 years.
Yeah, to look for something. I think we can clearly call it an abandonment.
Yeah, and in rural areas, you can live for 2 years. Women face that a lot. They live for 2 years, no sign of life, no contact, but the woman is left to face the sorrow in the children's eyes and things like that. And then the sad part about it is that it's very sad when a man doesn't come back or at least show sign of life and send a letter, send some kind of communication. So women are affected more for sure.
Yeah, and we see this man who's taking care of 5 different families.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah, just because one man didn't come back or their husbands didn't come back. So and you know, the uncle had to take care of, you know, his brothers, wives and children, and it's very devastating. Rural areas are very tough when it comes to the effects of climate change.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get back to that. We'll have to take a pause right now. It is time for a short break. When we return, we'll hear from an expert who has hands-on experience with women who have been left behind by their men, and share how climate change sometimes is the main reason for their departure. As usual, we ask you to share your thoughts on this topic on our social media platform at VOA Africa. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain, and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganye. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices, and we're talking about women who have seen their husbands leave them behind because of the effect of climate change, especially in the rural parts of Africa. Now we introduce you to Jane Naini Meriwos, the Executive Director of Samburu Women Trust in Kenya, an indigenous women-led organization that champions for the rights of women and girls among pastoralists. She joins us via Skype from Nanyuki, Kenya. Welcome, Ms. Meriwos. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me in your show. I'm doing quite well.
Right. Jane, recently in May, the indigenous women from your region of Asal gathered to protest, calling on the government to take proactive measures in minimizing the climate change related disasters like drought and floods, saying these disasters have led to a rise of rising female-headed households as women are left behind or separated from their husbands, unable to cope with the loss of livestock, which is the primarily livelihood for them. What was the government's response?
Thank you so much for having me in this show. And when we talk about impact of climate change, focusing on rural women, mostly nomadic pastoralist community in the region I come from, it has impacted negatively both women and girls because when their husbands move away with their livestock because you're a nomadic community, go look after their animals for several months, like the recent drought, almost like 3 years when we didn't have rains. And then you imagine for a very long time, and then all those animals are wiped away, and then their husbands come back with nothing. And women are there taking care of their children with nothing. The repercussion is, there's a lot of trauma both to the male, but to the women, there's more gender-based violence because meant to trigger more violence to the women. So it also impacts negatively to the girl child because definitely they become the breadwinner and the breadwinner where they are trading them for livestock and sell them at a tender age. So in terms of early marriages, so also girls suffer in triple. So basically, in terms of climate change, women have turned out to manual job, moving nearer towns, doing manual job around issues like cooking alcohol, prostitution, selling small dukas, so that they are able to feed their families, as well as also the impact of climate change that you've seen that most families are separated. And you find that in the rural areas, most of the families are headed by women who are taking care of their families. Some of the husbands, when they go looking after their animals, they don't come back to their family when they lost their livelihood as a result of drought. They disappear from nowhere and they don't return. And those ones who returns, they return with a lot of frustration, impacting also negatively to the same women in terms of start now beating them. So more gender-based violence to the homestead also triggered to divorce among the women. And to those families who have girls, you become now the brunt of the conflict because your father now tends to trade you with other men on early marriages so that they can have back to the livestock.
Terrible, terrible situation. And let's touch on that. What about those husbands? Do you think the reason for the ones who don't come back, is it because they're having a hard time to reach their family?
Once, yes, because of the society and the negative puts and the pressure on men that you're supposed to feed your family. And because they don't have that courage to come and face the reality, they tend, some of them even to kill themselves, some of them even just to disappear, and they never return. And because there is no support system in the community where men are supposed, to come back and change back in the society, it becomes difficult for them. But again, when you look keenly, I would prefer sometimes it's better if men disappear rather than coming back and start now causing more mayhem to the women who have been trolling and supporting their children in their absence.
Yeah. So do you think that when that situation actually happens where it seems as if it's better that they stay where they are, do the women triumph against all odds? What happens to the women, eventually in your experience?
What we've been doing generally to support these families who are having impacted negatively both women and girls to retain them in schools is that we've been supporting them with seed capital, having them cash transfer, and also giving them life skills, knowledge that they are able to do small entrepreneurship, selling small vegetables, starting kitchen garden, and also having small mobile shops where they are able to sustain their families. And to the girls, for us to retain them in school so that they don't get early marriages, as well as also being forced to undergo, female genital mutilation and married off at tender age. We retain them in school by one, supporting them sanitary pads, paying their school fees, and making sure that the girls also are safe in some of the areas. For those women who are experiencing gender-based violence as a result of that, they've lost all their livestock. We also give them social support system, but also supporting them in alternative livelihood so that they can have back their dignity. For those who are affected, impactedly by either by beaten or even by, harm by their husband. We'd give them medical support so that they can also see a counselor and they're able to regain back their dignity and to come back to the society so that they continue feeding their family in a dignified way.
Yeah. Well, you are really, really supporting those families. You are doing an excellent job. So you also are the national convener of the Indigenous Women Council in Kenya, and your annual conference is coming up. Tell us more about the organization and upcoming meeting.
The key highlights within Samburu Women Trust that we normally, this is the 9th annual Women Conference, which we are bringing on board all the leadership, women at the national level, National Assembly, and then also the county government, as well as also other partners across the region, trying to deliberate and assist and access what is the situations we are talking about when you talk about climate change and how it's impacting negatively on Indigenous women, those who are living in rural in areas that they cannot be accessed. How do we look critically around issues on policy and see, do this policy that the government is talking about, how is it impacting negatively? How do we also influence some of these issues as Indigenous women, as even voices of women, so that the government can also change the policy we feel that they're not friendly to us. And even our main things here is to make sure that our issue, our collective voice as Indigenous women, is heard by the government. When you look at the landscape where Indigenous women live, most of these issues are underlying. Majority of them, the pastoralists, hunter-gatherer, fisher folks, as well as also women who live with a disability. And we want the government to hear, one, our issue, two, articulate our issues, as well as also when they develop policy, we want to be on the table, not people to discuss our issues. We want us to discuss our issues on the same table, decision making.
And rightfully speaking, it sounds like you're closing the gaps where government isn't able to reach some of these women in rural areas. But
yeah,
in essence, how many do you actually serve, or perhaps how many would you like to be serving at this time? How many women and children?
This time, so far we are able to reach, for the last 3 months, we were able to reach close to 3,000 women, and we are able to retain 500 girls in several schools, both supporting them, paying them their school fees, buying them school uniform, retaining them by giving them dignity kits, and making sure that during the school holiday, we also host mentorship for them to prepare young girls to keep them in terms of building their self-esteem and making sure that also young girls start preparing in terms of leadership.
So would you want to be working more with the government, and what exactly is your long-term goal of how many people you want to reach, or how many other counties that are going through the similar issues that you would like to touch? Because this is something that is in the sight of climate change is not going to end soon. What is your end game in the future?
We work very closely, both the national government and the county government, trying to engage them in terms of when they're developing of the policy, making sure that the policy are very friendly and the issues of Indigenous women are taken care of, and also supporting them, making sure that the policies in place, they are disseminated and simplified in the language that local community can understand, in the language that it is being simplified, but also supporting them going to the vernacular radio station and talking and demystifying the policy, and making also sure participation of rural women is very effectively and understand the issues that the government want to put in place. Our bridge is to make sure that the issues of women and girls is put at the table, and the government can raise our concern at different levels.
What about a last message to men? Perhaps those who are still there, those who have left. What is your message to them?
Pardon?
Message to the men who are still there with their women, or a message to the men who have left and never came back?
To the men who have left their family, we want to send them a very strong message. Please come back and take the responsibility, because those children, those women needs you. For those men who have had the courage to come back and live with their family, please protect their family and protect those women, and don't subject them to gender-based violence.
Thank you so much for your insight in what's going on in the rural parts of Africa, rural parts of Kenya, and the things that people are going through. We've also heard the things that are happening in Angola. It seems that there are different parts of Africa that are facing climate change and some of the things that are being done. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Ms. Mary Was.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that's our show for today. We hope today's show shed light on how economic crisis fueled by global warming is affecting families, especially in parts of the continent. Thanks to our guest, Jane Naini Mary Was, the Executive Director of Samburu Women Trust in Kenya, and was our colleague Israel Campos from the Portuguese division for the report that we've seen earlier. Be sure to watch our voices on VOA's website at voaafrica.com and our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episodes and top news stories around the globe. Last but not least, thanks to our editorial and production team here on Our Voices. And on behalf of VOA, thanks for watching. Until next time, cheers.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Everyone talks about getting their dream jobs, but what does it take to get that dream job? In a religious society like Nigeria, some people resort to prayer, but did you know that sometimes the only reason you're not getting the job isn't because you don't have the credentials? Many times about how well you can defend your credentials through your presentation and communication skills during the interview. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the rate of unemployment in Nigeria rose to 33.3% in December 2020 from a 27.1% in 3 months. Interview phobia is a major issue that contributes to unemployment in the country. Some individuals are employable but don't know how to express themselves properly, present their resumes, and network effectively. An expert spoke to us about interview phobia and how it has increased the rate of unemployment within the country.
Okay, so I mentioned I struggled. I went to Lagos State University, public university. Nobody taught you any of these things. And so I thought that if I come to the interview space, I would do well because I know I'm good enough. But coming in, it was difficult. I got plenty of rejections, and I made up my mind that if you can get past this thing, you would help other people who are also like you. And so sitting down in that space, I also see people like me, and I feel for them.
According to Student Graduate Report, more than 50% of graduates in Nigeria disclose that communication skill is the least skill their academic education prepared them with.
Like we have a compulsory NYSC every year. I believe the government or the educational sector should do something like when they know somebody's in their final year, maybe they allow them go through a month or so, or they introduce a course and make it mandatory for them to be able to go out there and face the outside world when it comes to interviews, when it comes to networking and all of that. I've seen super amazing, intelligent people lost opportunities because they were not confident, and those who were not so smart but have built their confidence are able to get the job and get these networks and get these opportunities. Especially when you come from a Yoruba or Igbo family where you don't have to look at your dad in the eye. You get that kind of thing. So you have to learn to look at people in the eye when you talk to them. It makes them believe that you are not up to something. You're not hiding anything in your cupboard.
We're going to school or having to attend different schools, all right? They just teach us, we only have syllabus on what they've been doing so far in past years, and there's there's no trend of bringing in new things.
So the next time you complain about not getting a job, think about how well your CV is prepared. Assess your communication skills during the interview and think about how well you presented yourself.
Hello and welcome to the Literary Bar. It's another interesting week and I'm excited to be here with you. Remember, I'm looking forward to having you join me here in the studio. It's been a difficult week for Nigerians in general, the art world, the music world, but most of all, the loss of our elegant stallion, Onyeka Onwenu, is such a devastating loss, and we all met this news with shock. But Onyeka Onwenu has been such a wonderful gift to Nigerian music industry, to the art world generally. She's been a politician, a journalist, and she's an author, which is why it's also very, very dear to the Literary Bar. And that's why we are giving her a very special call out, because she's one of us. She's so beloved. Onyeka Onwenu has given us so many songs of which has resonated with us, from Iyo Gogo to Ekwe, but significantly, her album titled, the song One Love, is such an endearing music that more than anything resonates with us even at this time. Onyeka Onwenu, popularly called the Elegant Stallion, was so graceful and elegant in her delivery, in her presentation, that if she could have written the script of her life, she would have done it this way, leaving the stage with this amazing performance that she gave at the event where, sadly, she slumped and eventually lost her life. So the Elegant Stallion, who gave us One Love, at this time where Nigeria is not even sure where it's going, Onyeka's passing also calls to mind this song that she hopes will unite us more than anything. I remember the video of One Love where people were fighting and all that, and even in the lyrics she says, we don't need all of this, no more fighting, let's live in peace. So I'm calling on anyone, in loving memory of Onyeka, let us come together in one love, and let this that she has preached with her life and her music be the most important lyric or soundtrack to the event as is unfolding right now in Nigeria. So it is with so much love that I say, thank you, Onyeka Onwenu, for being the amazing legend that you have been. Thank you for the music, and thank you for the memories. Good night, Elegant Stallion. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll go into the book proper. Before I go into the book selection and poetry for this week, I want to share a bit about a conversation I had with my friend Baba. Baba is an elderly but very special friend of mine. Baba told me that words were the sole currency of our human existence. The words we say to people and the words we use with ourselves. Ultimately, words create and shape the quality of our lives and relationships. Imagine when you hear the words, I love you, and juxtapose it with, I hate you. How will that make you feel? Over the years, men like Hitler, Pol Pot, Mobutu Sese Seko, Idi Amin have used vile and hateful rhetoric to destroy the fabric of humanity. In these modern times, rebel leaders have used divisive language to rally their supporters to unleash mayhem in their communities. Rwanda's genocide, Boko Haram's insurgency, cult clashes, political violence, and brigandage. Words also act as a soothing balm over painful experiences when we empathize and sympathize with kind and carefully chosen words. As kids, we learn the magic words, please, thank you, excuse me, and I am sorry. These magic phrases have been the key to great friendship and relationship over the years. Do take my word for it, because when we return from this short break, I will tell you about the book Baba graciously gave me to share with you. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz was published in 1997 and has sold over 15 million copies in the USA alone. It has been on the New York best-selling list for over a decade. It's been published in 52 languages since its first publication. Don Miguel reveals the source of self-limiting beliefs that rob us of joy and create needless suffering. Based on Toltec wisdom, the Four Agreements can rapidly transform our lives to a new experience of freedom, true happiness, and love. This book is written in a simple language and is an easy read. In these difficult times, when we suffer from mental breakdown and self-inflicted pressures to meet up with societal expectations, the Four Agreements becomes even more important as a personal guidebook to help us navigate through the murky waters of unrealistic expectations of ourselves and others. After the break, I'll read a short excerpt from this amazing book. Okay, welcome back. So now I'm going to take you through the Four Agreements that will help you to carry on with your relationship, especially your relationship with yourself. A lot of the pressures that we feel in this world is because of how we talk to ourselves. When we feel that we're not meeting up, or we have not done well, or we have failed at a particular enterprise, be it business, be it academics, we use the hardest words on ourselves, and these words tend to stick. And beyond just saying it to ourselves, when we also say terrible things to people, we have decided to embark on a journey of personal destruction and destroying other people. Because the words we say to other people defines us more than we know. So the first agreement says to be impeccable with your words. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the words you speak against yourself or to gossip about other people. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. We know what we're going through at this time, and as we're trying to call on people to come out, destroy, fight, and all that, we are only hurting ourselves. If we use our words to invite people to destroy our community and other people's properties, all of us are going to live with the consequences of what we have done. In Rwanda, when they had their genocide, the Hutus and the Tutsis came together. The people who were spearheading this fight were calling their friends, their neighbors, cockroaches. They said, destroy them, they are cockroaches, they have no blood in their system. How can your wife, because she's Tutsi and you're Hutu, suddenly become a cockroach? How can your teacher, your neighbors become cockroaches just because they are fighting on the other side? And people use their words